Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
What? If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor.
What difference at this point does it make?
Doesn't make sense.
If you're looking to make sense out of what's going on in the world today, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to Southern Sense Talk Radio with your host, Annie, the Radio Chick-A-Dee, and featuring Curtis C.S. Bennett and the most interesting guests that you'll find anywhere on Internet radio. And you can join the show and let your voice be heard by dialing 917-889-3675. So sit back, relax, and remember, Southern sense is common sense.
Welcome back to another exciting adventure here on Southern Sense, live on Blog Talk Radio, SHR Media, Global Enlightenment Radio, up on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, YouTube, Facebook. Oh, yes, back on YouTube again. I've got a whole group of people starting to follow me once I get back on YouTube. So check it out. I am your hostess with the least mostest, the Radio Chick-A-Dee, here on Southern Sense, along with my guest co-host, Chris Curtis. C.S. Bennett is not with us today. I have Colonel Calvin Wimbish. Good afternoon, Calvin. How are you today?
Good afternoon, Annie. As always, I'm very blessed to have God give me another day to prove I'm more worthy than days past, so I can go forward and do what I can to make our nation like.
United in liberty. That's what we are. We have so much to talk about today, and we got a great lineup. We've got two country music singers, both out of Texas, are going to be joining us. Stephanie Lee, also known as the Lady Redneck. She's got a new song that just recently came out we want to talk about. We also have John Blangero. He's known as Sun King Rising. That's his group. He's got a brand new album that came out. It's really good. It's Christian. It's conservative. It's patriotic. It is everything that is red, white, and blue in America. And we have, I had to interview her yesterday because she's such a busy lady, Judge Jeanine Pirro. She will be, I have a little bit of an interview I did with her yesterday that we will be playing. And then I have my friend from the Epoch Times, who also known as, he founded Hill Faith in D.C., Mark Tapscott. He's a good old friend of the show and mine. And then we're going to finish off with our guest from the Heritage Foundation, Hannah Davis, talking everything immigration. And oh boy, is that a lot to talk about, Calvin. Woo, I'm out of breath already.
Oh my God, well, this sounds exciting, especially the Christian music, which I think our world, our nation in particular, with all that's happening around our nation with the borders, and people are being concerned about the influx of people who don't have a heart and understanding what one nation under God for America has been and ought to be returning to be. And we need to work hard, and sometimes you got to have that faith in God to bring it back. So I just hope more people will realize and let the words of those beautiful songs resonate in their heart. We need this.
We do. Some are very inspirational. John has his songs all tell a story. They're more like ballads, but using different types of music that he does it with. And it's really interesting because a musician, while he was trained at the young age, starting at the age of 5, he was actually a genetics scientist. So that's going to be interesting to talk to him about that also, how he changed his career so late in his life to become a highly talented and recognized musician. The thing is, the path that God places us on is really amazing.
Absolutely. Reminds me of my daughter at age of 5. She's always had music in her mind. In fact, she tells people on her website how I was singing Christian songs to her in her belly, and she came out singing. And now she just released a song called People Are People, and I was so proud of her. She's an independent recording artist, and it just gave me goosebumps when she took an old Depeche Mode song and ramped it up to say, why are we hating one another? You know, and it's just the words kind of make you again realize that the generations of today aren't totally lost, but they have to redefine themselves and put Christ back in their life.
Oh, that is the truth. Now, what we have to do is get her on the show one day with her recordings, Calvin, and give her a nice little hefty plug.
Well, we'll work on that. Absolutely. I'll make that happen as soon as I can get in touch with her. She's been running all over the country. In fact, I was blessed that I was invited out to Hollywood, and she actually did her release in the theater, the Chinese theater, where only Michael Jackson and Rihanna had their opening. So this will be something we can hopefully get back on the schedule, and that'll be an exciting moment for my wife and I to have that happen.
Oh wow, that'll be my pleasure to do that, especially for you, a friend of the show and a friend of the nation.
Well, thank you so much. Well, I tell you, even though the outcome of my last attempt to help bring some civil-minded people back to earth with conservative values here in Florida, we are fighting to try to wake up people. Midterms is what they are. A lot of people wait until the presidential elections. Well, 2024 is not that far away, and people who have been sleeping on the controls need to wake up, because our nation is about to fall apart into socialism unless we, the people, begin to rise up in a positive and Christian-like manner. We can take our country back. And that's the kind of revolution that I'd like to see.
And that is the absolute truth. Our battle is at the ballot box. And we've got to remember that every November is an election day. There's one day in November that is election day. Now, some states have different election laws where you vote in advance or vote by absentee ballot. Whatever your state is, know what your state laws, your county, your parish laws are, and get your vote in, because everything changes at the ballot box, whether it be your dog catcher, your school board, your county council, your city council, your mayor, your supervisor. Every election is a local election, and it goes all the way on up, because that person you vote in on your city or county council or as your mayor will eventually, most of them do, go on to higher office, whether it's state or federal level. Very few do like Donald Trump did and become president right off the bat.
That is true. And in fact, you took the words out of my mouth from dog catcher to whatever, because the schools, for example, is how critical the teaching institution must be. I was once a school teacher. I taught JROTC in high school. And the beauty of watching those students who really were there to understand that integrity and honor and respect and selfless service and self-respect were some of the core values that must resonate in them, and stop blaming others for what they have the control, the power to control in their lives. And just because their parents or their grandparents or generations before them failed doesn't mean they are a failure. So they've got this unbelievably wrong mindset about who they are, but more importantly, what they can truly be. And so we got to make sure that we get people who are committed to right the ship and get our educational system back online, because it is truly broken. And I call it, if everybody's asleep at the wheel, the woke. We got to awaken our system, get good, strong, conservative values back into the seats of school boards and county commissions and in the city councils and the police departments. They are struggling. I know of quite a few policemen and sheriffs and deputies. My son was a former cop. Unfortunately, his type 2 diabetes pulled him down. But his heart to be out there, find a right to wrong for people he don't even know every day, reminded me what I was doing in the military for 33 years. And you're willing to sacrifice for a nation that gives us the opportunity. But yet so many people want to throw us away when we got millions upon millions, I think it was last count, 5.7 million, coming here, flooding in here. If we're such a bad nation, why are these people coming so much and illegally trying to cross the border when they should respect the boundaries of our nation? We're going to give them the opportunity. They come in the right way, knock on the door, fill out your paperwork. And the people that's been holding in lines for years are now being pushed back, and we're losing the grip of our nation. We need to get a real new mindset.
That we do. And it does. It starts at home. It starts in your church. It starts in your local community. It starts in the schools. And if we don't keep a rein in on what our boards of education are pushing on our children and what the liberal agenda is placing on these poor, innocent children being brainwashed, and how our children grow up is how our future of our nation stands. And unless we take control back, and again, it starts at the ballot box, who you vote in on your school board, and who you actually force off the school board by your vote, by your being vocal in your newspaper, by calling your representatives. That's how you take your school board back, one member at a time. And there's something new that I found out just last week that's called social emotional learning, where they end up grading your child based upon their inability to socially and emotionally learn. And that grade will follow that individual from childhood all the way through adulthood and make them a ward of the state. And think about the amount of federal dollars and the NGOs that will control those funds on that individual that was labeled as a toddler, as socially, emotionally learning disabled. They're pulling any hat trick out possible on us, and we've got to stay aware. We've got to stay alert. And again, it starts at the battle box. The ballot box. That is our battleground.
Well, it is a battle box, the ballot box, because it's just a beautiful thing about our nation. We are a republic, and the Democrats continually try to preach we're a democracy. But you got to look at the definition of what we, the people, our founders had. Regardless of your color of your skin, it's not that. It's not that when the Constitution was written and the Revolutionary War was fought, that everybody who may already have been here, whether it's been native-born Americans or people who came here as indentured slaves or slaves from Africa. We also had slaves that came in from other countries. I mean, even in the Irish community, many of them, when they went up to the Northeast, they were also slaves. Many of them worked through what they call indentured servitude. You had the Chinese who came in here and helped build the Continental Railroad across from coast to coast. So there's been slavery of some degree in this nation, but it's also all over the world. So man inhumanity to man mindset that goes way back to biblical times, Cain versus Abel. But at the same time, we can break the link, and Christ even broke that link for us. But now God gave us the power to choose to do right or choose to do wrong, and too many people choosing to do wrong and accept that as their new rule of law. In fact, with all the fighting and the stealing and the robbery that's going in the malls and the towns and the shootings, I think the rule of law for those who are okay with that, the ineptitude that's in our higher levels of leadership at the White House right now, they are accepting that the rule of law is there is no rule of law. Guess who's suffering? We the people, 99% of us who don't do wrong. And we have to stand up again as Christians, conservatives, patriots, and let's win our country back. And like you said, Annie, we have to start at the ballot. This year, across the nation, in every state, there is some election going on. Please, people who are listening, look into your local community. You are going to be greatly affected by your lack of engagement and involvement with the future of your nation. And your children and your children's children will remember what you did or you didn't do.
Absolutely.
Please get involved.
Absolutely. Now, Calvin, you know we start each and every show off with a dedication to a fallen hero or heroes. And today's dedication is going to go out to police officer Amy Breidenbach and police officer Hunter Scheel. They are of the Chetek and Cameron Police Departments of Wisconsin. Their end of watch was Saturday, April 8th of this year. And so we will go forward with our dedication now. And this is from the Officer Down Memorial page for Police Officer Emily Ann Breidenbach of the Chetek Police Department, Wisconsin. And it reads, Police Officer Emily Breidenbach and Police Officer Hunter Scheel of the Cameron Police Department were shot and killed during a traffic stop at Wisconsin Highway SS and 13th Avenue in the village of Cameron. Officer Breidenbach and Officer Scheel pulled over a vehicle for a warrant and welfare check on the driver. The subject was armed and gunfire was exchanged. Officer Breidenbach and Officer Scheel succumbed to their wounds at the scene. The subject was transported to the hospital where he died. Officer Breidenbach had served with the Chetek Police Department for over 4 years and previously served with the Stoughton Police Department. She is survived by her parents, brother, her fiancé, and his 4 children. Her father was the chief of police for the Partyville Police Department. And Officer Hunter Timothy Scheel. Officer Scheel was a United States Army National Guard veteran and served with the Cameron Police Department for only 1 year. He is survived by his mother, stepfather, father, and 3 sisters. And this is from Chris Velter from the Leader Telegram of Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And he writes, Chetek Police Officer Emily Breidenbach and Cameron Police Officer Hunter Scheel will forever be remembered as heroes and defenders of their communities, said Reverend Cody Cargis. They were true heroes, Cargis said before a packed gymnasium at Cameron High School on Saturday of their funeral. Heroes are used too often to where it loses its meaning. Not today. They were heroes dying while protecting our community. Breidenbach, 32, and Scheel, 23, were killed in a shootout Saturday, April 8th. The suspected shooter, Glenn D. Perry, was also killed. While the officers worked for different agencies, they had gotten to know each other well, Cargis said. They were friends. They worked the same shifts and often backed each other up, Cargis said. The gym was packed with more than 1,000 officers from across Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, and around the nation. Also in the crowd were Governor Tony Evers, Attorney General Josh Scheel, U.S. Representative Tom Tiffany, and U.S. Representative Derek Van Arden. I heard some New York accents and Texas accents, Cargis said. For all of you who are not from our county, you are our family. The closed caskets with U.S. flags draped on them sat in the front of the gym. Next to Scheel was some of his deer mounts and a Minnesota Wild jersey. Next to Breidenbach was her Harley motorcycle. Cargis serves as law enforcement chaplain for both departments and knew both officers. Last Saturday was the worst day of my life, Cargis said. I lost 2 friends. In prayer, he asked, is there any grief like this? He added, we may not have the answers of why. What we have is hope. Hope that is found in God. Scheel loved life outdoors. The one word I want to use to describe Hunter is love, Kargas said. He loved to protect, and that's what he wanted to do. He recalled meeting Scheel when he joined the police department, and they did a ride-along together. He was so eager and so young, Kargas said. My first night I spent with him, all we talked about was hunting and fishing. When I left his squad that time, I thought Hunter was the perfect name for him. Kargas said Scheel loved his family, his department, and his military comrades. Audrey Scheel, Hunter's sister, told the crowd she loved her brother's smile. I could cry and cry knowing I'll never get to see that smile again, Audrey said. She added that looking at the overflowing crowd, offering support. I know he's smiling and he's proud. I know he's proud of having Emily's back. Audrey concluded, may you forever hold Emily close. Mark Clements, Hunter's cousin, talked about growing up with Hunter. The heart on this kid, I don't know how it fit in his body, he said. He always put everyone first. He was a protector at home and at work. Cameron Gustek, Scheel's partner, read a psalm and thanked the crowd for being there and providing her support. Cameron Police Chief Adam Steffen said he's struggling with how his department moves forward. Our path has been detoured, Steffen said. I was blessed with getting to know Hunter. They performed their job with dignity, respect, and professionalism. Breidenbach protected children and loved to laugh. Shattuck Police Chief Ron Ambrosides told the crowd that when Breidenbach first walked into his office, Breidenbach's father, Robert Breidenbach, was previously the Shattuck Police Chief. Emily was one of 3 finalists for an opening. I knew that last name, Ambrosides said, and I knew I had to make this girl part of the Shattuck Police Department. He described toying with her before finally letting her know she got the job. I knew she made a phone call because she was so excited, and it was to her father, Ambrosides said. During her tenure, she worked sensitive crimes, wanting to protect children. She was visible at high school sport events and loved to interact with kids. She was all about community and kids, he said. And she pushed for the department to get a therapy dog, Grizz. He told her there was no money in the budget for a dog, so she would have to appeal to the public. She raised $18,000 in 4 months, Ambrosides said. We only needed about 6. There was never a doubt to Ambrosides who the dog's handler would be. Whoever he hires next will have big shoes to fill. Emily would want us to stay strong and finish our mission. Kargas recalled doing a shop with a cop day with Breidenbach, and recalled her eagerness to help out. Her legacy is she cared. Shattuck Mayor Jeff Martin thanked the crowd for the support they've seen in the past week. Evil is not a philosophical concept. It is real, Martin said. As long as there is evil, we need officers. We've lost a member of our family. It's a dangerous world out there, and we will always need people like Enemy to suit up and to protect us. Kargas concluded the 2-hour funeral by reminding the crowd that we can overcome evil with good. He urged the crowd to look to God and to others for support. This has been a hard week, and your grief is deep, Kargas said. Love one another. The Wisconsin Department of Justice Division of Criminal Investigation has been handling the investigation into the shootings. Today's show is dedicated to police officers Emily Breidenbach and Hunter Scheel. Officer Breidenbach and Officer Scheel, stand down. You are end of tour. We will take it from here. We dedicate this show, to these 2 brave officers and to all of the men that serve and women that serve as first responders, be they law enforcement, firefighters, or emergency services. And we dedicate the show to all the brave men and women that serve in our military from the birth of this nation through today and into our hopeful future. We dedicate the song from Tiffany, Soul of the Nation. May God bless each and every one.
Let it be said when we finish this race, we kept on free, we led with grace. Let it be seen from sea to shining sea, beautiful America, living our legacy. Father, mother, sister, brother, we gotta learn to love each other, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let us be known as people of honor, humble and bold, faithful through fire. Let us hold firm to our convictions with wide open hearts, eager to listen. Father, mother, sister, brother, we gotta learn to love each other, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let us make room, let us reimagine, welcoming voices with true compassion. Let's craft a world with hopes and dreams, the challenges known, those still unseen. Father, mother, sister, brother, we gotta learn to love each other, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let us be sure when our time has come, we gave them hope, we made them strong. Let it be said when we finish this race, we kept them free, yeah, we led with grace. Father, mother, sister, brother, we gotta learn to love each other, for the soul the soul of the nation, for all the next generation.
And we're back. You're here listening to Southern Sense live on Blog Talk Radio, SHR Media, Lone Star Daily News, iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and now half a dozen other places. Just go to the name of the show, put a dash in the middle, southern-sense.com. Of course, I'm your hostess with the least mostest, the Radio Chick-A-Dee, Annie, along with my guest co-host, Colonel Calvin Wimbish. Good afternoon again, Calvin. You know, I do these dedications every Friday, and they don't get easier. Man, how many times have you or I stood in uniform at attention to lay a brethren or a sister or a brother to rest in the line of duty? It doesn't get any easier. Oh, I forgot to unmute Calvin. I apologize. There's a little button on the studio switchboard that I have to press to unmute you.
Not a problem. You gave me a chance to dry my eyes. That was a beautiful song, a beautiful dedication, and you brought me, nothing but memories, sad memories for my friends and loved ones, family and friends, both in the military and first responders, and including my fireman friends who have lost someone. Not only people often talk about just 9/11, but every day first responders are falling unnecessarily because of the ignorance and the stupidity that is being allowed to manifest and fester in our communities, and the lack of respect and disrespect from the government leaders who have the power to give the policemen and the deputies and the sheriffs and the firemen and the EMTs the right of passage to help people. But yet, they're allowing ignorance, if I'm just going to call it what it is, to be bliss and cause great men and women, like the two fallen officers, who put their lives at risk for the people they don't even know, who had a family or children, and they go out every day hoping to come home to see their loved one, only to have someone who has no respect for life pull out, whether it's a gun, a bat, a knife, a stick. It's not just a gun. They talk about gun violence, Annie. It's more than that. It's an attitude. We got people who are mentally disoriented and accepting evil as the way of life.
Exactly. And we do have our guest in the line. We're going to carry this on later on.
Yes.
Because that Marine that took down the homeless guy in the subway saving lives has been arrested, and he is being indicted. We will talk about that a little bit later on. But we do want to welcome onto the show Stephanie Lee. She's also known as Lady Redneck. Good afternoon, Stephanie. How are you today?
Hey, Stephanie.
I'm fabulous. How are you?
All right. I've got a guest co-host today. He actually ran for Congress in the great state of Florida recently. Didn't win, unfortunately, but we're going to get him back out there again, Colonel Calvin Wimbish. So we are in great company here.
Yes.
Awesome.
Hello, Stephanie. Welcome aboard.
Hi. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Excellent. Your voice automatically matches what I'm sure I'm going to hear a lot about in the next few minutes.
She is a rather beautiful lady. Listen, you've got some great songs, and I was listening to a lot of them last night, and I had a lot of fun listening to them. I'm just trying to get my little playlist back up over here, and my computer's not behaving the way it should be. Now it is. Okay. Recently, you had a really scary incident. And you were out at a firing range, and you ended up losing your hearing because of an incident. Tell us what was going on. What happened to you?
Oh, it was awful. We were out at an outside shooting range, and so you bring the bigger guns when you go to some of those. And we got there, and there was only one other guy. He had a huge gun, and I was starting to put on my on all of the hearing protection, and I just didn't have it all the way on, and he shot the gun, and from then on, the hearing in my right ear disappeared, and now I've got ringing in the left ear, and it's just been awful. So it's just kind of changed my life a little bit in the sense that I am not as comfortable doing live shows or being out as much because I just can't hear the way I used to be able to. So it's really sad. So,
well, something very similar had happened to my fiance, and I took him to the firing range, and he had not put his gear on his headset yet, and I'm signaling to him to put it on. I'm not even going to open the door unless I've got everything on. But you were on an outdoor range; that's a completely different situation.
Smart.
And well, he didn't listen, and he went in, and all of a sudden someone fired. I forget what the heck the guy had, but it looked like some sort of a rifle on an indoor range, and that booms. And the next thing you know, he couldn't hear. And he did get his hearing all back.
I am so sorry.
But people don't understand.
He didn't get it, did you say?
Well, he did get his hearing back, even though he is hard of hearing naturally. So it's not 100%.
Yeah.
I still have to repeat myself. But he did get it back to the level it was prior.
Oh.
So maybe with luck, it took him, I would say, several months before he was able to regain what he had prior.
Well, it's been a full year. I really thought I was going to get it back. I didn't really worry about it for a day or two. And then, a week went by and I started worrying about it a little more. And anyway, I ended up going to a doctor and he said, well, if you would have been in here sooner, we could have given you steroids and you would have gotten it back. So I don't know if that's true or I just don't know. But at this point, I am looking for anything I can do to get it back.
Well, I tell you, one of the ways you can is through prayer. And if you keep praying,
Yes.
but also the miracle of technology has advanced so much. And I've been reading some of these studies because I have family members who have hearing loss. And I've been a military guy of 33 years around cannons most of my life, helicopter, rotor blades, all kinds of weapons, everyone that you're talking about, used on myself. And sometimes you don't have your ears on. I've got a little partial disability, but there is opportunity. So you just have faith and research, and I think you might find that there's a way to get, if not all of it back, a good portion of it back. So I'm going to be praying for you. Already on my prayer list right now.
Thank you.
In fact, I'm going to send it up to my 95-year-old mother because she's a prayer warrior.
Uh-oh. So now, Stephanie, you see what happened?
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Do you see what just happened?
You're welcome.
He did the lead-in for me. I didn't have to do the lead-in to the song I wanted to play. And Calvin has no idea the list of songs that I pulled up. He has never heard them before, but he just gave me the perfect lead-in, didn't he?
He did. He really did. Yeah, thank you.
So the song I'm going to play is what you wrote because of what you have gone through and the power of God and prayer. And it is called All Things, correct?
Oh, my goodness. I'm listening. Okay.
So,
yeah, it's from the Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ. So I took it from that scripture, and I ask on social media quite often for prayers, and people are so generous, and I know I've got a lot of people praying and helping out, and so I am so grateful because I do believe in the power of prayer. I truly do.
well, here is your song, All Things, and we're going to play that now.
Thank you.
I've got a wall that I can climb, created by mistakes on mine. With His mercy, the jungle sound. I'll find peace, and the walls will come down. Got a mountain I can't move, keeping me up to strengthens me.
That is absolutely beautiful. And Stephanie Lee, known as Lady Redneck. How did you get started in the music industry?
I actually grew up in it. Both of my parents. I grew up in a little town in Idaho, but my parents were both musical, and we had a family band, and we did shows all over. And one of those shows where the girls are all in front, and we're all switching instruments, and clogging and doing stuff like that. So I grew up playing music, but as an adult, after I moved down to Texas, I just knew that's what I just felt like that was what God was telling me I needed to do again. So I started releasing some of the songs that I wrote, and just decided to just go for it doing my own thing. So.
Well,
that is an outstanding, beautiful rhythm, and I love the sincerity about it, using the biblical references. I mean, really, you can do all things. Everything is possible. I can tell you there have been times in my career when I was out as I sometimes call it, in the middle of the night in places that sometimes try to forget, but from the Middle East to the Far East and other places. And I say, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, and yet he says, I'm here for you. I'm your strong tower. I'm your shield. And all things are possible if you believe.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, it's true. And I'm just grateful for faith, too, that we can have that hope, and that we can, just as you're talking, I can feel the spirit of it, and it just brings you so much peace and comfort and joy, and I'm grateful to have that.
Well,
you are very blessed, I can tell.
You are someone that comes from a very strong family, and you've got something that is happening today, or has already happened today, don't you? Something was just released today, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, just released today.
And what is this that you've got out there today, and how did it come about to be? And I got some noise in the background. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I don't know either. Yeah, so my dad has written a whole bunch of songs, and growing up, I would listen to him play and perform all the time. And as I was growing up, there was a song that he played quite a bit that I just loved. And it wasn't until I was older that I realized that he'd actually written it. But it's a song called I Wonder About You. And so for his birthday in February, I told him I was going to record it and release it. So I recorded it, and I'm releasing it. I actually just released it today. It's called I Wonder About You. And so it's a country song. It's not Christian. And the last year I've just been doing Christian. So I was a little worried about that, but I released it today, and yeah, it's a song that he wrote, and I wanted to do it as a tribute to him, and because he's taught me so much, and I have so much to be grateful to him for, and so I just wanted to show him off a little bit and just, share one of my favorite songs that he's written.
Now, what's your dad's name? I mean, we're going to credit him with the song, but what's his name?
Yeah.
Besides Daddy.
His name is Seth Collister, and he also goes by the Guitar Guy. He teaches guitar lessons and has a guitar manual, but yeah, his name's Seth Collister. So,
well, Seth, this is a tribute to you from your lovely daughter, Stephanie. So let's get this going up. Let me cue it up if I can get both my hands working. And here we go. This is Lady Redneck, I Wonder About You.
Thank you.
When I was young and you were too, we set out to see what we could do. The years went by and we went our own ways, and now I wonder where you are today. I wonder where you are, how you doing, how you been, and I wonder if you're happy with the life you're living. Dreams are to be. Baby, do you wish you were with me? 'Cause I wonder where you are, how you doing, how you been. And I realize that I'll never see you again. Never, no, never. And it's so hard to, oh, I wonder about you. I wonder about you.
All right, that's Stephanie Lee, aka Lady Redneck. Stephanie, I'm always curious. I was trained classically. I played violin, viola. I was teaching myself cello at one point. But I was always curious how an artist such as yourself would come about. You create the song, you have in your mind what you want the melody to be. When you go to the studio, do you lay it track by track, or do you have a group that goes in with you and records with you? How do you do it? What's your method?
Well, I was also trained classically on the violin, and growing up, we all learned several instruments. So I play 7 instruments, and so before I go into the studio, I actually write all of the music. But I only work with one other guy, and it's my producer. He's a Grammy Award winner. His name is Brad Davis, and he's phenomenal on the guitar, world-renowned guitar player. I am a lot better on the keyboard and violin, other instruments, and so we work together as a great team because I go in there, I have it written out. He likes it in Nashville number system, so I put it in the form that he wants, and then we start by I'll lay down a track that is just a real kind of a rough draft, and we start with that. But usually as it progresses, we just I feel like we work synergistically because he has ideas, and then more ideas come to me, and so by the end of the day or the days that we create the song, usually there's, it's turned into something way more than I could have done by myself, just between bouncing off ideas back and forth. And so it's actually, to me, like creating is one of my favorite things in the whole world. It's almost like Christmas morning for me because I just get so excited for the energy, like the creation energy that comes along with it. And so it's just, honestly, it is so much fun. And we just go with that attitude and excitement, and that's how I do it. That's how I go, how it goes about. So.
It's almost like a jam session.
It almost is. Yeah, it really is. It's so fun.
Yeah,
and
you can see this, and he can watch the way your voice progresses through it, and he can turn around and say, well, what if I add a little treble here, or if I threw a little percussion here to accent the word or the pause, then it becomes so much more fun.
Yeah, it really does. And what I've realized, this is kind of funny, but if it's a song that I wrote, a couple years ago, and I've been playing it forever, I don't have the same creative energy as if I just created it, 2 to 3 weeks earlier. I feel like if it's kind of a relatively new song, it's still so formidable, and I can still, bring out all this other creativity. But if it's a cover song or one that I've, written a long time ago, because I've been writing my whole life, then I don't quite have the same amount of creativity, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does.
So,
I don't do it anymore. I haven't even touched an instrument. I can't tell you in how many years. But I do remember as a kid getting my younger brother and sister. One played the flute, one played the saxophone, I played the violin. But I would write the music. And how do you fit a saxophone in with a violin, right? But, we would be creative at that point. But I can imagine you doing this, and how many different instruments you have to include. And then to get them all to blend in just so beautifully the way you do. It's amazing. It is absolutely amazing.
Oh, that's so nice of you to say. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You two remind me of the jazz musicians that I used to work with years ago when I used to be a member of the Left Bank Jazz Society in Baltimore, and how they improvise and the innovative thinking.
That's awesome.
And all of a sudden, like you said, let's put a tuba or a trombone or a horn, and then you, in your mind, you said that won't fit, but amazingly how it does work out. And it's when it's from your heart, that creative spirit, that goes back to the spiritual nature that God is already providing all of us. And you remind me, as I'm sitting here, Annie knows my daughter is like you. She produces and writes her own music. She's an independent artist trying to make it, but her conservative values have been stammering her in the world that should accept her song. And so you're being an inspiration to me to pass on to her that continue to believe you will receive. This is beautiful. But songwriting is not easy, but then delivering, that's another thing.
Well, this Stephanie, I'm going to do this, and Michael, I'm sure, is listening, your agent. I'm going to turn around and have Calvin have his daughter contact Michael, because maybe that's just what he needs, another person in his stable with a different type of music and sound. So, Calvin, we'll talk after the show.
That's a great idea.
And maybe we can get Michael to help handle your daughter.
Oh, my God. You would make Mama and Grandma and Grandpa, in fact, they'll probably throw their walkers away and dance to the music.
Well, talking,
but that'd be blessed.
Again, Calvin, you gave me the lead into the next song I'm going to play, because I see we only have a few minutes left with Stephanie here. Stephanie, you took on a highly iconic and well-known song, and you did your own version of it, which I found highly interesting, and I liked it. You took on Charlie Daniels. Didn't you?
Oh, yeah. That was a fun one. I did, yeah. And he's, such a legend. Like, some of those you don't even dare touch hardly, but I just thought it'd be fun. So, yes, I did.
So you went and re-recorded or redid your own version of The Devil Went Down to Georgia. What made you think you could even handle this? Curious.
That is such a good question. I think because I had this idea to combine a couple of different songs together. So I thought, nobody's going to do The Devil Went Down to Georgia like he does. But if I just had a little bit of a different song or different arrangement, people would probably like it just because they like that song so much. So that was my thinking. So, yeah.
Well, let me get the music queued up over here, and we're going to have Stephanie doing The Devil Went Down to Georgia, Lady Redneck and Georgia, just across the border from me. Right over the border. So here we go, Stephanie.
Devil went down to Georgia, not a soul in sight. City's looking like a ghost town on a moonless summer night. And he came across this young man sawing out a fiddle and playing it high. And the devil jumped up on a hickory stump and said, "Boy, let me tell you what." And the thunder rolls, and the thunder rolls. Guess you didn't know, but I'm a fiddle player too. And if you care to take a dare, I'll make a bet with you. You play pretty good fiddle, boy, but give the devil his due. I bet a fiddle of gold against your soul. I think I'm better than you. And the thunder rolls. Yeah, the thunder rolls. Said, my name's Johnny, and it might be a sin. I'll take your bet, 'cause I'm the best that's ever been. Johnny, rising up your bow and play your fiddle high. 'Cause the thunder rolls and the lightning strikes and the devil deals a cry. And if you win, you get the shiny fiddle made of gold. But if you lose, the devil gets your soul. devil bowed his head because he knew that he'd been beat. And he laid that golden fiddle on the ground at Johnny's feet.
He said, devil, just come on back if you ever want to try again. I've done told you once, you son of a gun, I'm the best there's ever been.
And the thunder rolls. And the thunder rolls.
Lady Redneck, Stephanie Lee, and the devil went down to Georgia. Stephanie, people listening to your music right now, where can they find it? Where is all this gorgeous stuff? Oh, and plus you also have a blog that people could read too to find out what's going on with you.
I do. I feel like I'm all over the internet. So if you just type in Lady Redneck, I'm pretty easy to find. But on my website, which is ladyredneck.org, I've got a blog on there, and it also has all of my social media links connected on there. So you can just either jump on the website or jump on your favorite social media. I'm very active on social media. So, and I love to comment and just correspond with people on there. So it's a lot of fun for me.
Oh, that it is. Now, you also did something on your blog, which I found very interesting, because tomorrow is Mother's Day, and you put a challenge out there for someone to write a poem to their mom as a gift for Mother's Day. And what were you offering?
Oh, I was offering just to put music to it and record it so that they could give it to their mom. So it was really fun. I actually got to do some of that, and it was really fun.
Oh, excellent. Well, we got to see if any of that ends up on your next album then.
Yeah.
All right, and what is your website?
I don't know if I will, because it was for their mom, so, but it is ladyredneck.org, and then I have one that's just merch that's ladyredneckmusic.com. So I have either of those.
Well, there is a link on the show page. If they just click on where it says Lady Redneck, will take it to ladyredneck.org, where they can get your music, read your blog, and even communicate with you. And I wish you a lot of luck, and my prayers are with you that your hearing can be restored to its fullness, and that you can get out there and start touring so people can see how beautiful you are in person as you are here on our show.
Amen.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Nice.
You're inspiration to all who are listening, and I hope that all who are learning about you go to your website and spread the joy. And maybe you or my daughter, after you hear a little bit more about her, you may have to do a concert together and really open up the world. We need people like you out there on stage.
Thank you so much. I would love to. Yeah, I would love to connect with her, and definitely. So somehow let's make that happen. That sounds good.
Yeah, her website is real easy. It's VAJAmusic.com. VAJAmusic.com.
Baja Music. Okay. And, I'll definitely we'll connect. Okay.
I'll tell about you, and then hopefully the two will be able to make great music together for all of us to hear.
That would be great, Calvin. Thank you so much. That sounds good.
All right, Stephanie
Thank
Lee.
You. God bless you.
Stephanie Lee, known as Lady Redneck, and you can find her at Lady Redneck. The teeth in backwards. LadyRedneck.org. I think I finally got that out right.
You did well.
Well, Stephanie, we welcome you back anytime. You get something new, just tell Michael, give me a call.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
All right, God bless.
Thank you, and God bless.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Stephanie Lee, ladyredneck.org. Now I was able to do that. Try to do it 3 times fast, and Calvin, you know I'll mess it up in a heartbeat. Oh, man. Did I lose you, Calvin, for a second?
No, I'm still here.
Oh, okay.
I think I had Mike in on mute, so I wouldn't mess you up. Go ahead.
All right. Well, actually, what we're going to take is we're going to talk about for a few minutes, because you only have just like about another 15, 20 minutes with us before you have to take off. So before you take off, I will do my recording of Judge Jeanine, my interview of her yesterday. But I will warn people, if they're watching the video up on Facebook, YouTube, or on my webpage, which is Southern Sense, put a dash in the middle, they'll see there's a little bit of a change in me. Besides the shirt I'm wearing, my hair is a different color and it's much shorter. So after I did the interview with Judge Jeanine, I went out and had my hair cut and colored. I got rid of all the gray. So don't be shocked. All right. Well, anyway, Calvin, I was mentioning that in...
Okay.
You got yourself unmuted again.
Go ahead.
But I was mentioning that because of pressure from the left, from the AOCs and from the other left-wing nuts we have out there, as well as the mayor of New York City and its liberal DA, they are prosecuting that Marine that stopped the attack in the subway. And what really got me angry is that I watched... They had the attorney for the person, the individual that died on the platform. I'm not even using names because I will not dignify this individual by using his name.
Understand.
And I will not disrespect the Marine by putting anything out there that's not true. So I give him respect. But this individual had a lengthy criminal record. He was threatening to do physical harm to people on that subway platform. And a group of military veterans stood in, and this one Marine is now taking the hit for doing what any normal citizen would do to protect their friends and family around them. And now he's being arrested and prosecuted. And I wish everyone out there to contact their elected officials and tell them how wrong this is. But they dragged members of his family. Oh, what a sweet boy, and how wonderful he was when he wasn't having all the voices in his head. He was really a good person. But he had a criminal record that was up from my wrist to my shoulder. A lengthy record, a lengthy history. So, all of a sudden, they become squeaky clean little kids. What, they're not altar boys. This guy was a criminal.
Right. And sad that they said that he had a mental issue. Well, if you knew that, and God forbid, but why is it that all the hospitals around the nation have shut down all mentally ill sections where they could deal with mentally ill rather than have to be out on the street? And this person that the Marine had to take down had loosened or broken the eye socket of a lady in one of his criminal offenses, and that's the revolving door of New York. That really is sickening.
Oh, this criminal also took a 7-year-old child and dragged that child down the street. A 7-year-old child. Oh my God. So he doesn't care whether or not you're a little kid, a toddler, or an elderly individual. It doesn't matter to him. He will do harm wherever he can do harm. And you are correct. Back in the late 60s, they started closing down the mental health facilities nationwide because, I'm sorry, we have people that are criminally insane or people that are a danger to themselves and others that need 24-hour supervision in care, but they closed them down. And I actually had a friend where her older brother was one of these permanent patients. And when you bring this person back onto the family, well, it's fine for them to visit for an hour or two, but any longer, you are not capable of handling a person with these type of mental challenges. You're not a medical professional. They may be your brother, your son, your daughter, your husband, or whatever. They may be someone you love dearly, but you're not medically or even mentally equipped to handle these extreme cases. And we closed these facilities down, and New York City mayor closed a lot of services that were being offered to people on the platforms that were whacking out. He removed them. Right. So now this individual is free to roam and threaten individuals. I'm sorry. And now for this Marine veteran, this brave individual is going through hell on earth.
Yeah. And, here it is. He and I like so many other military, we've been trained to protect and defend, not in the nature to destroy. If we can, we'd rather apprehend than destroy. But, even in that moment when this guy who was going to possibly and greatly hurt people again because no one took him in and kept him under control was, it's an unfortunate situation. However, life must go on, and we must also have government that is more accountable and responsible when it comes to doing what is expected of them, and have a law that is enforced and reinforced. And right now, the law is broken. Policemen by the droves are telling me every day how sad they are that the laws that are on the books for them to enforce, they've been told before they go out, oh, by the way, you cannot do X, Y, Z on this particular case or not. But it's on the books, and we have failed them. I mean, we got states like Washington and Oregon and Chicago and where I grew up in Maryland, Baltimore, that are out of control. Yeah. This is not right.
Absolutely. Yeah. And here I am, a NYPD retired officer, injured in the line of duty like yourself. But I look at my brethren out there, and they're handcuffed by their superiors, by the government that they protect and serve, by the public that doesn't want to see, oh, heaven forbid, a police officer on the subway platform. That's racist. It doesn't matter what the color or gender of that officer is. But the fact that we're in a blue uniform, so they must be racist. It doesn't care. Right. They don't matter.
Yeah, it used to be it was only the white police. Now it's any person, regardless of color, in uniform, because we're there to protect and serve and defend them and make sure that their inalienable rights are protected. All of a sudden, we're the bad guys. And then they call my son. They used to call us military guys back then, the Vietnam era, baby killers, and I'd never killed a baby in my life.
Right.
But this perception that it has become the narrative is regurgitating itself again and again. It's almost like the Woodstock era has evolved under this Generation Z and some of the millenniums that continually have risen on the wrong side of rightness and have fallen into that pit of woe and wokeness, and they have the power. You saw what happened on CNN. They announced, when President Trump was on the air, and he just blew them away. Solid citizens. Biden could never sit on the air for an hour and a half and do what President Trump did. But yet, his love of this nation, you can see he really, really loves this nation. He had everything. All he wanted to do is help the country have everything in a better way.
That is true. That is true. But, it's the new wokeness. It is the new wokeness. So up is down, down is up, left is right, right is left, and nothing makes sense anymore. And what we need to do, and again, it's going to be a ballot box battle to bring back the republic to this nation, a democratically elected representation in our republic. And the difference for people who don't understand the difference between a democracy and a republic is based upon a set of laws. It is a foundation, and that foundation is our Constitution. It goes back all the way to the Magna Carta. It goes back to English common law codified by King Harold. But that Constitution has a basis and a history. And if you take away that Constitution, you take away the foundation of this nation, and we will devolve into a democracy where democracy is a mob rule. It's 50% plus one. And who's that plus one? It becomes the tyrant who controls that 50%. Hitler, socialism was a democracy.
Yeah.
Communism started as a democracy. Those are democracies. This is not. This is a republic, right, if we defend it.
Amen. Amen. And right now, the powers in control wish not, have chosen not to defend it. It's sad they take these 1,500 active duty soldiers and they're being caretakers rather than doing what they can do I was observing on news throughout this morning how sad it is. They had to put concertina wire up, and the people who are coming across the river are demanding that you pull us up, are demanding that you let us in, and they're trying to direct us, go to the border entry point. And people are out in the water by the tens of thousands, and they brought in tens of thousands before this law goes away, title goes away, and that yet the guy Biden administration is just standing there like, oh, but the border's not broken. Give me a break.
No. Yeah, I feel bad for every single border officer that's forced to serve right now for this nation. As a matter of fact, I have a friend of mine, a very dear friend. He was a former police chief. His son is a border officer. And the stories we were getting, what these men and women being put through by this government, it started long before Trump, under the Obama administration, started under the Clinton administration. And these men and women not allowed to do the job they were sworn to uphold, to defend and protect this nation and uphold the Constitution. You raised your hand and swore to defend and protect the Constitution. I did the same thing. And I remember that day very well, July 15th, 1986, Madison Square Garden. And I'm sure you remember that day you raised your hand too, Colonel.
Absolutely. June the 6th, 1971. Mm-hmm. I solemnly swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States, and you will do all the rest. And you did it because you believed. I mean, hey, well, you're a minority, so what does that got to do with the price of apples? Because bullets don't discriminate in combat, let alone on the streets of the city.
And evil is simple evil. It doesn't care if you're young or old, male or female, white, black, orange, green, purple, chartreuse. I don't care. Evil doesn't care. It'll seep into the society, it'll seep into the people, and it will spread like a disease. And that is exactly what it is. It's a cancer, and we've got to wipe it out. Well, Calvin, that's my rant for the day.
We must end that, please. I love it. Well, you have really, and I'm just so blessed that CS gave me the opportunity to join in with you. I am excited about the opportunities going forward for America and young people, and like Stephanie that we listen to, and others that have keep tuning in. Annie, you're doing a superb job. Thank you for your service. And I just wanted to shout out to the world that I've been honored that I was asked to become a keynote speaker on Memorial Day, May 29th. People, if you can get off from work, please attend a ceremony somewhere in your community and honor the fallen. They are the true heroes, the ones that sacrifice. And I've had to lose a few inches to get back to the uniform, but I want to look appropriate for those I'm going to honor, both those who were awarded medals of honor, Bronze Stars, but even those that didn't. But the fact that they were willing to step up to the plate and say, for this nation, I will defend. I pray that we all remember our fallen heroes, and I will be honoring both first responders as well as military at this ceremony. May 29th, 10 o'clock, Woodlawn Memorial Park, Gotha, Florida.
Well, here in South Carolina, Buford National Cemetery, we will have our parade. And I'll let you know, Calvin, I did something recently because now my Tea Party meeting is now meeting at the AMVETS every month. And because I'm the daughter of a World War II veteran, I became a woman's auxiliary. I became an auxiliary member of my local
Well,
AMVETS.
Congratulations. All right. Well, welcome aboard, sister. Then after you add it to my list of sisters that are standing up because it's a just cause, and this is so worthy what you and CF continue to do. So keep Southern Sense growing, and I hope we just added another million or two to the sound and hearing you out there every week, helping us understand we can bring our country back to its constitutional values because it's all people, regardless of the color of your skin. It's not that the content of your character. As great Martin Luther King said, and as you know, Annie, I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican. And if he was willing to get into the White House with Lincoln and get his two sons to join so that the war, when it ended, would open the door for those who were sitting on the slave plantations, realizing that life wasn't as good as they thought it was, but they need to get up off their butt. And we got a lot of people sitting on their butt right now. Get off the plantation of wokeness and awaken to what you can do for America. Let's make it great again. God bless everyone.
God bless, Calvin. And we'll be speaking with you very shortly. Take care. And you can always step in
All right.
anytime CS disappears on me.
Okay. You got my number now, so don't hesitate to give me a call.
Oh, that I will. That I will. Colonel Calvin Wimbish. And thank you. God bless, Calvin. All right. We've got our interview here with Judge Jeanine Pirro. There are rumors circulating. She may be following in the heels of Tucker Carlson. I did not get a chance to ask her that. We only had about 10, 15 minutes. And it was a joy and a pleasure because she has been on the show in the past. And always fun. You know, we got the New York judge and the New York City cop, and we always have fun whenever we do speak with each other. She has an excellent new book out, which is being released on the 23rd of this month, called Crimes Against America, The Left's Takedown of Our Republic. And it's up on Amazon, which you can pre-order it. So if you're looking at the show page on your smart device, where you see Judge Jeanine Pirro, you'll notice that I have a link to the 5 on Fox, even though I watch Newsmax. And I also have a link to her book up on Amazon, Crimes Against America, The Left's Takedown of Our Republic. And I'm going to push this live now so you can watch my interview with the judge and enjoy. So sit back, and we'll be back in about 15 minutes. Here we go. Judge Jeanine, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
I am absolutely excellent. And it's fun to have you back on my show because, you know, you are the New York judge and I'm the retired New York City cop. It's always fun to have this perspective.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, well, we're all free form, and it's like a great conversation. It's wonderful to have you back on the show. It's been way, way too long, because the last time you were on the show, your book was out, Liars, Leakers, and Liberals. And since then, you've had several more published called Don't Lie to Me, To Punish and Protect, Radicals, Resistance, and Revenge, He Killed Them All. And then you also have the Sly Fox series that you've been doing. So, I mean, I'm a little behind here on the curve.
Well, thanks so much for having me on. I do appreciate it. You know, this last book, Crimes Against America, was an easy book for me to write because, you know, with all my other books, I mean, obviously there were issues and, you know, there were messages that I wanted to write about. The Crimes Against America is about something that we're all witnessing in real time, and that is the takedown of the Republic. All of the institutions of this country have been assaulted or are under assault as we speak, whether it's the educational institution, whether it's the justice institution, whether it is, you know, the border, the sovereignty. And I talk about how, whether it's the First Amendment and the courts, everything is different now. And if you talk to people who come from socialist countries, what they'll tell you is that it happens very quickly. And the one agency that is very involved, they say, when it does happen, is the military or the intelligence. And that's what sent, you know, shivers up my spine when I realized that the CIA was actually involved in a takedown of a laptop that had information that was easily verifiable, but instead heads of the CIA were willing to put politics and ideology ahead of justice and truth and the American way so that Joe Biden would have a talking point at a debate with Donald Trump, with then President Donald Trump. Well, so this book, Crimes Against America, is my frustration with everything that's going on.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm waiting for it. It's coming out May 23rd, and I'm dying to get a copy of it. I hope I get it autographed by you, by the way. But
you're very kind. Thank you.
But one thing that people don't realize, you talk about the military and the intelligence, but what I'm seeing, and I as a judge, you should be seeing this too, is that the takeover of the Department of Justice. And it started off small. It started off locally, and now it is nationwide with Merrick Garland not even looking to prosecute the Biden crime family, as I am calling them. But you also see Soros insinuating his people into various attorney general's positions. And we only have a handful, I believe now 13, one of them being a friend of mine, Oh, good Lord. Alan Wilson. I just had a brain fart there. But we have only a handful left that are truly honest attorney generals or district attorneys. They're taking over every aspect of our life.
Well, look, when you've got the criminal justice system that has been infected by George Soros-funded prosecutors who've been, who got into office, saying one thing and then doing an absolute different thing, we are seeing the result of it. And in the end, what we've got is America that doesn't really trust its own justice system. We see the inequities. We see this nonsense social justice. I don't know what the hell social justice means. All I know is that as soon as someone is arrested, before the paperwork is done, the criminal's out of jail and the cops there working late. And, defund the police and, making sure that criminals are not accountable, letting them out of jail. I mean, this is a recipe for disaster. It is what they do in third world countries. And in third world countries, that's when you get the intelligence agencies to come out and say, oh, no, this one's corrupt, that one isn't. And that's exactly what they did. And we saw it with Jim Comey and the FBI. When he stood up in front of America and said no reasonable prosecutor would prosecute Hillary Clinton, then she literally destroys 33,000 emails under subpoena. If that happened to you or me, we'd be in jail. If that happened to a Trump, they'd be in jail. All right? And yet we've got an 80-year-old who literally cannot speak at a press conference, but instead just kind of smirks and arrogantly waddles away. You have to ask yourself, what the hell is going on when world leaders meet? This guy can't carry on a conversation. What does he say in the meetings if he can't come out and tell the press what they said at the meeting?
I mean, the man can't even go to the bathroom by himself. I'm sorry. And this is our leader, our president. And it is the absolute embarrassment. When I watch him on the world stage meeting these other world leaders, you can actually see them smirk and go, just how stupid is America? And when we elect someone like him, we just prove how stupid we are. It's the flavor of the month instead of who will do the best for our country. And people now vote like if you're someone, on TikTok.
Well, the truth is that the more people are coming into this country and the lifting of Title 42, 5 million have already come into this country during the first 2 years of the Biden administration. They expect 10 million over the next 2 years. 15 million people. Joe Biden has an agenda. And that agenda is to bring as many Democrats as possible into this country because, hell, if they were giving me free food, education, medication, housing, and all that goes along with it, and I just show up and I get it, and then they say, oh, the Republicans really want to take down Medicaid and Medicare. First of all, they don't. But let me ask you a question. What's the best way to take down Medicaid? But by having so many people on the public dole that you can't afford to take care of American citizens anymore because you've got 10 million new illegals who are not working.
Yeah, now
it is a bad place.
It is an absolute bad place. But they throw in Medicare and Medicaid together, which really drives me crazy. I'm sorry. Medicare, I pay for. It comes out of my check every month. I pay for that insurance. Medicaid, the person receiving it does not pay for it. The individual state does. It becomes a state burden. So it's not the federal burden. It is the state burden. And so now how best to cow the individual, like we're going to take this away from you. But you allow people in from a third world country that have been given, they're told when to eat, how to eat, when to work, how to work. So now you come to America. Well, what are you expecting? We're going to tell you when to eat, how to work, when to work, where you can go, what you can drive, what clothing you can wear, what shows you can watch on TV. And if you don't behave, we'll arrest you. And this is what we've got, a criminal justice system that is not for criminals. It is against the good guy.
Well, yeah, and when you've got a system that doesn't really consider the victim, but is more concerned about the criminal, then what you have is chaos and anarchy, and we're seeing it in cities all over this country. You've got, Portland and Baltimore and Minneapolis and Washington, D.C., New York City. There are mentally ill people who are all over the place committing outrageous crimes, and then they're being let out of jail. I mean, the reality is that there's no one looking out for the good guy anymore. And that's why it was so important that I write this book, that people recognize it's not one thing. It's not the border. I mean, we're a globalist landing spot with benefits now. We've got nothing. Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, that's all right.
We're a globalist landing spot with. We're a globalist landing spot with benefits now. Nobody is vetted. We don't ask them who they are or where they're from or what they're doing or what they plan to do. It's just like, come on, come on. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. And it puts us in harm's way because we don't know who among them is a pedophile, who is a thief, who is a criminal, who's MS-13. It's this, let the Americans fend for themselves. We've got to make sure we've got a group that's going to vote for us when it's all said and done.
But we're
outrageous.
We're the bad guys because these people are in need. They have their dream of whatever it is, but we're the bad guys because we want to protect our borders. But heaven forbid this was China, communist China. If you come across the Chinese border, I'm sorry, you're automatically arrested, sent to prison, no trial, nothing. But for us,
you go into Mexico and they'll arrest you.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if you go there illegally, they'll arrest you. Look, this is all part of a plan. It's part of a plan that's been in place for many years. And it started with Barack Obama, and it's happening very quickly right now. And if you talk to people in socialist countries, they'll tell you that. They'll say it happens very quickly. And we're seeing it in education. We're seeing it in the courts. We're seeing it at the border. When they can parade and protest, and there's a law that outlaws that, and the Department of Justice won't prosecute, you know that something's going on. You know there's another agenda. And it really is a sad commentary on America today. And if we don't take care to at least get people elected in school boards, as well as DAs and obviously president, we're not going to have any control. And in a sense, COVID was a blessing because what it did was see what was going on in the schools, to see what was going on when we weren't looking at, as it relates to our kids. And this is what the Democrats want. The progressive Democrat is not the Democrat, of years ago. These are people who want socialism, they want Marxism, and they don't want democracy.
No, it's not the Truman Democrats, it's not the Kennedy Democrats, it's not the Reagan Blue Dog Democrats we see anymore. It is progressive socialism that you're talking about. So first they take over our legal system, then they take over our educational system, and what have they done now? Our medical system. So what best way to cow us in three different directions? And rewriting the court system was the biggest thing they've done because as a judge, a person's arrested, they expect their day in court, a trial by jury or a trial by judge. Instead, we have now a plethora of plea bargaining, and you never even get to court. So people are pleading guilty to things that they've never been guilty of, but it's a way to make things walk away and yet to cow the individual. We're being assaulted by so many different directions, and no one really understands that.
Well, no one understands it, and no one is going to fix it unless the American people do fix it. And the more people who come into this country, the more we're going to be in a position where we have less and less power, because as soon as someone gets a license, they're going to be able to vote. And in many states, illegals are voting, illegals have licenses to drive. They're being given them. I know in California they are. In New York City, they wanted to allow illegals to vote, and I don't know if it's going to happen before the presidential election, but you can count on it, that they're considered to be citizens that have all the rights as citizens do in terms of, many areas that previously they never had. So it's all about the takedown. It's all about minimizing the American and the First Amendment free speech, whether it's the Twitter, not allowing discussion of a laptop, whether it's the intelligence agencies being affected, whether it's defunding the police and maligning police officers, and it's forgetting about the victim, and it goes on from there. And at the end of the day, if we don't take care to make sure we elect people in races where it matters, like a DA's race or like a school board race or a city council race, I mean, those elections matter. And right now, I'm not so sure that we've got control, and we're going to lose control ultimately if we don't make sure to at least be informed and recognize what the attempt is. And that's why I wrote Crimes Against America, so people can see how every aspect of our lives have been changed as a result of the Democrat ideology.
Absolutely. And your book is coming out May 23rd, and it is, I'm dying to read it. Please don't take that literally.
Oh, thank you.
Because I've had so much fun.
I hope not.
But, unless we understand
thank you.
How America is being dismantled, and the problem is people don't understand our history. Our history has been rewritten by the left. And as they rewrite our history, they are dismantling our Bill of Rights, from whether or not it's a trial by jury or a speedy trial. Hello, January 6th, people still sitting in jail. The dismantling of the First Amendment of our freedom of speech. The Second Amendment, which helps us defend the First Amendment of our freedom of religion. Heaven forbid, if I don't agree, I'm pro-life and not pro-choice, and you're going to make me do something I don't want. We are being assaulted by so many different directions. Your head ends up spinning just trying to catch up with it. Yeah. And it sounds like you got a very hungry puppy over there.
Yeah, and I have to go. But I have a 10:15. I have another call. So I agree with you. I mean, if we don't recognize that we're in a dangerous spot right now, then we're going to end up paying the price. And as I said, it's going to happen very quickly.
Well, Judge Jeanine, it is always a pleasure, and I want to have you back again, not every couple of years or every few books, but a little bit more often, from judge to cop and back again.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you so much for having me. God bless you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Right. Judge Jeanine Pirro, and you can find her book, Crimes Against America, The Left's Takedown of Our Republic, coming out May 23rd at a dealer. All right, and we're back, and we have been having a little bit of a technical difficulty, so if you're listening live on Blog Talk Radio, you're not nuts. It's just that they would not allow the audio to go through on their unit, but you did have it up on Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, iHeart, and all the other places possible. Even my own website had the video and sound playing at Southern Sense. Put a dash in the middle, southern-sense.com. Of course, I'm your hostess with the mostest, the least mostest, I should say, Annie, the Radio Chick-A-Dee. And I have a guest co-host that's taking over for Colonel Calvin Wimbish. I know I'm always mispronounce her first name, so she's going to correct me, and I deserve it, every ounce of it. Adianis Morales. Did I say it right or wrong? Did I butcher it?
That was close enough. Adianis.
Okay. And we also have our next guest in on the line, sitting there very patiently going, what the heck did I just dial into? John Blangero. He is also known as the Sun King Rising. And just don't rise the sun in front of me, because keep your pants on, sir. We're here.
Great, Annie. How are you today?
Oh, I'm having one of those days. I actually just said, if anything can go wrong, it usually does. And it's always when my guest co-host is not with me. So my co-host is not with me. I get a guest co-host. But we'll get it all together. We'll get our act together. I want to welcome Adianis, because I said my co-host is not with us. You have a lot of stuff that you're doing in the great state of Florida, along with working with Americans for Prosperity. You work in helping with children, their rights and protecting them. You've got your finger in just about every pot down there, and God bless you for the hard work. And I'm very glad that you are joining me here today.
Thank you.
All right. And John, I got a question. What made you, well, first off, learned to become a musician at a very young age, at the age of 5. I didn't pick up the violin until I think I was 6 or 7. But you ended up, were like a prodigy. And then you went to college and your life took a completely different path where you worked in genetics as a scientist, a researcher. And you tossed that all away and you decided to come back to the nutso world of music. What made you make that major shift?
Well, I didn't actually give up science. I am still an active scientist, but I decided that it was time for me to try to make my mark in the world in a more artistic fashion. And it actually all fits together very well because I get to use different parts of my brain for each activity. So I would say that it's made me a more complete person being able to return to music in some sense.
Well, you have 2 albums out. The first one that came out is called Delta Tales. Now, we had just previously Stephanie Lee, Lady Redneck, on. And it's amazing how Texas is turning out such talent. And God bless Michael for finding the 2 of you. Delta Tales. You don't think of Texas like a delta. You got the Rio Grande, but where did you come up with that term, Delta Tales?
Yeah, so it's actually a homage to both the Yazoo, Mississippi Delta and the Texas Delta. So I live right down here in Texas actually does have a delta. It's at the end of the Rio Grande. I live as far south in Texas as you can live. I live literally on the Gulf of Mexico in a small place called Port Isabel. The nearest big city, not very big, is Brownsville. So, and we're right there in the news these days because we're kind of ground zero.
Yeah, that you are. As of midnight last night, Title 42 is rescinded, and my prayers are with you guys down there. And God bless Governor Abbott. The first thing he did was take 17,000 of those migrants and shipped them up to Queen Camilla Miller's house here in D.C. You think they're freaking out now? Wait until they come to a sanctuary city near you.
I will say that the Rio Grande Valley is probably one of the safest places in the country. We have a very, very high rate of police officers and border patrol and National Guard and whatnot these days. So it's actually a very safe place to be right at the border.
Well, I was listening to your albums last night, and I was picking out certain songs, and you mix. I would call you actually a balladeer. You tell a tale with each and every song you do, but you use the different styles with each one, and I found it fascinating as I was listening to it. And one of the ones that I found really fascinating, I found it fast, I found it edgy, it had a moral to the story. It was called The Snake. And, people keep on forgetting about that story. And every time I see someone with a snake charmer or with a pet as a snake, I'm going, have you ever heard that tale? And I actually fell in love with the song.
Yeah, so that's actually a cover of a soul song from the 1960s, written by Oscar Brown Jr. So that's one of my very few cover songs. But it was so. My producer brought it to me, and I vaguely remembered it. But he said, "Look, this is going to be a great opener. We like that big kind of Muscle Shoals horn sound, and we were able to put both the horn section and also kind of the gospel background vocals really fit well. And it's just that song's just a great all around mover. I call it a Southern soul stomper."
Well, that it is. And I do want to play that for people so they can get an idea of what I'm talking about. And I paid specific attention to the guitar progression. I think my teeth are in backwards today. as well as the punctuation you use with the brass instruments. I found that very fascinating. So this is your song from Delta Tales called The Snake.
Come on in. Come on in.
On her way to work one morning, down the path alongside the lake, a tender-hearted woman saw a poor half-frozen snake. His pretty colored skin had been all frosted with the dew. Poor thing, she cried, I'll take you in, and I'll take care of you. Take me in, tender woman, take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, tender woman, sighed the snake. She wrapped him all cozy in a comforter of silk, and laid him by her fireside with some honey and some milk. She hurried home from work that night. As soon as she arrived, she found that pretty snake she'd taken to had been revived. Take me in, tender woman, take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, tender woman, sighed the snake. She clutched into her bosom, you're so beautiful, she cried. But if I hadn't brought you in, by now you might have died. She stroked his pretty skin again, kissed and held him tight. Instead of saying thanks, that snake gave her a vicious bite. Take me in, tender woman, take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, tender woman, sighed the snake. I'll save you, cried the woman, and you bitten me, but why? You know your bite is poisonous, now I'm gonna die. Shut up, you silly woman, said the reptile with a grin. You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in. Take me in, tender woman, take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, tender woman, sighed the snake. Kiss the snake. That's the snake. Sighed the snake. Kiss that snake. Come on in. Come on in. Come on
Love it. And the gospel singers in there are just so beautiful. Now, I was looking at the number of
They are.
people that you use on both of your albums. I mean, you got yourself a whole gang. How many people do you have normally in
it
any of
takes
your
a lot of
recording
people,
sessions?
Yeah, well, it can be, and we do try to do a lot of it live, but of course we can't always do that. But it really takes about a band of 10 or 11 to pull off what we've done on these two albums. On the first album, we actually used quite a lot more folks because we use a lot of different players. But on the second album, we've now distilled to pretty much a core group that comprised the Sun King Rising backing band. But yeah, it takes there's a lot of sound going there.
Now, this album, the first one, Delta Tales, came out in 2021, and you just recently released the new one, which is called Signs and Wonders. And you've got a cover piece called Number 6 Magnolia Avenue. Now, just to show that I actually do pay attention to who my guests are and what they are offering. I found it very interesting because you've got this love for China Blue, and you had a China Blue song on your first album, and you have it now, another song here on the second album. But there's a certain girl that you use in a lot of these songs in your videos. Who is this young lady, Megan Greenwood?
So Megan is she is a great actress and dancer who just fit the role, and you caught it. We've kind of we've developed this kind of mystical muse that this woman in China Blue that's cut across a couple of songs. Actually, is going to make another appearance on the next album. So, but Megan is she's the actress who portrays the dream.
Well, I have to tell you, at this late date in my life, I'm not a large woman, to be honest. I'm only 5'2", and my fiance is approximately your size, and I mean all around. So as I'm listening to number 6 Magnolia Avenue, I'm looking at Megan going, "That's me," and you're you. And I started teasing him, and he's giving me dirty looks. I said, all you had to do was just change the face, which is minor changes. It's just like, I just recently cut my hair, so it's a lot shorter. But I'm saying, you got the body build correct. So I'm telling people, if they want to see the video, they're going to have to go to your website, which is sunkingarising.com, and they can click on it, and they can get the albums. You can get it either in CD form, or you can download the digital version and watch the videos too. And you've gotten yourselves a couple of awards and nominations for awards recently on this stuff too, haven't you?
Yeah, no, we're doing very well. And number 6 Magnolia Avenue, that video is particularly done well because we kind of, it's kind of funny and it has its charm, and we spent a lot of time making it look good. So we've gotten a lot of awards all around the world at this point, frankly, for the video. And the song is done very well also in terms of streaming and things like that. So it's, I think people like it. It's got a real kind of a earworm hook to it that reminds people. I actually wrote that song. I was intentionally trying to write a kind of soul pop song that you might have heard in the late 60s or the early 70s, and which is kind of my genre overall. So I went out of my way to make it sound retro.
Well, I can tell from the gray hair. Poo up. Now, actually, I wish I had more time with you, but our interview with Judge Jeanine had rolled over a little bit longer. She was supposed to be like 10 minutes. She was down for 15 minutes. But those listening on Blog Talk Radio, I will splice it into that recording so you can listen to the archives later. But it is up on all the other avenues, as well as this wonderful music here by John and his group Sun King Rising. I am going to play number 6 Magnolia Avenue. It is a great song. And like I said, it's been up for several awards. You have a very grounded in gospel in a lot of the music that you do, and you do a lot of things that, along with stories in the Bible or stories that you can take and bring into today's world and get people to actually relate to it. And you hit all different gamuts from actually murder to love and all other issues.
I call a lot of it Southern noir. Although I was raised just outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, I was born to a very Southern mama. So we were actually raised in Southern culture. And of course, as soon as I could, I got down to Texas, and I've been here ever since. But so there's a lot of Southern culture, Southern life, which of course is immersed in the Bible's around us all the time. And
Yeah.
so I use a lot of biblical metaphors. And I'm always happy when somebody picks up on them because a lot of people aren't very well versed in that. And so I use it in a lot of ways. Yeah.
I'm holding up my notes in front of the camera right now so people can see that, yes, I actually go through the album. And one of the things I made a note of is sinners and saints existing in a lot of your songs. How you like to use different types of styles. You got one that was jazz, one was gospel. Each song is a little bit different. And yet I also find that some of the songs you refer to in a later song. Here you got Jubal Takes a Wife, and the song that follows it, you mention him in She Was a Blonde. See, I did listen. Tell Michael, hey, she actually listens to the music. But anyway, before we
that's a very dark story, actually.
I kind of figured that. Because I also noticed that you have Lanterns on the Levee, which could kind of like ties into the whole thing. We actually at one point start to play the theme from Dixie, down in Dixie. I'm going, whoa, talk about being real Southern.
That song's about the 1927 Great Mississippi Flood.
Well, let's play number 6 Magnolia Avenue so people can hear and then go to your website to actually watch the video. So let me make sure I unmute that one board, and here we go.
I was playing the circuit, laying down that southern soul, late nights in the juke joints, but in my heart there was a big hole. I had no partner in my life. What am I searching for? A rodeo queen from Abilene, smiling on the dance floor. It's a strange sensation when you realize you wasted your time. Got no call to tarry. You got a mountain to climb. Before the little darkness could fall, I walked that city streets and heard the night birds call. Number 6 Magnolia Avenue, the address where my heart was holding you. She took me by the hand, whispered it's alright. Love is gonna hear you tonight. Number 6 Magnolia Avenue, where I met the girl in China blue. She took me by the hand, whispered it's alright. Love is gonna hear you tonight. And now I'm playing the big time as the sun king starts to rise. Bright lights and glamour, I've got my eyes locked on the prize. I have found comfort in my life. She's all that I was looking for. The rodeo queen from Abilene, smiling on the dance floor. 6 Magnolia Avenue, the address where my life was holding you. She took me by the hand, whispered it's alright. Love is gonna hear you tonight. But 6 Magnolia Avenue, where I met the girl in China blue. She took me by the hand, whispered it's alright. Love is gonna hear you tonight.
I love it. You know, I kind of like hear almost a little bit of Van Morrison in some of the music you do, John.
Oh, he's a big influence of mine. Absolutely.
Well, that also shows it dates me too, if I'm pulling that one out. Yeah. But are you working on a new album now?
I'm writing right now, and it takes a while. Obviously, to come up with 10 good songs, I have to write 30 decent songs,
and then try them out. Now, you bring all the musicians all in at once when you do it, like a big jam session, or do you do track by track? How do you do your recording?
So it's a mixture. So we try to get the heart of it, the rhythm section, together live, and then things like the horns will be brought in separately later. The gospel are great female backing vocalists come in later, but there's a definite live feel to this, especially Signs and Wonders, because the rhythm section we're all together playing. So we do it. We're very old school. We don't use any of these, newfangled like auto-tune correction techniques. So we even leave a few little mistakes in there to humanize the whole project. But yeah, we kind of do it. We kind of do it the old way.
The old-fashioned way. It is great music, and this is something my late husband would have really gotten into. He was a huge fan of different types of genres. I mean, anything from Delbert McClinton to, I don't know, something like yours would be one of the things he'd be playing over and over and over again, and it brings back good memories for me. And you recently had a fantastic write-up in SpitMad. SpitMad.com gave you an excellent write-up just 2 weeks ago, titled Double Helix to Double Platinum. And then he reviewed your latest album. And it is great. And I wish you a lot of luck on that. And I wish we had a lot more time. But in a few moments, my friend Mark Tapscott from the Epoch Times will be calling in. So you got to tell, as soon as you get your new album together or you have something coming up that's important that you want to talk about, get a hold of Michael and say, come on to that Crazy Lady show again.
I'd love that. That'd be awesome. So thank you so much for talking with me today.
Oh, it has been my pleasure, and good luck on this album and on the one you're working on now. And we hope to see you soon.
Great.
All right.
Thanks very much. You take care, Annie.
You're welcome. And you check out John at sunkingrising.com. Download his albums. They are fantastic. Check out the videos and find out where he's performing and when anything else new will be released. Keep an eye on it. I'm telling you, that's something I'm definitely going to be taking a look at. Because I've already downloaded a bunch of the songs, and I definitely will be getting the discs, unless he wants to send me one that's signed and autographed. He can tell Michael, hey, send this to Annie. Try that one. See if that works. Anyway, Adianis, that was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of good music.
Yeah, and there is a need out there. For our last two people, between Stephanie and John, there is a need for good music. I mean, something that's Christian, that's conservative, that's patriotic. I mean, our nation really needs this now. Correct.
I 100% agree. We have a system of indoctrination through music, and it goes back to the Bible. You remember when who was the one that caused all this chaos with music specifically? It was the enemy. He was the angel of music. When he walked, he emanated music, and that's why I think the music is being so corrupted, because we know how important it is for us, God's creation, to be in tune with good things that our ears hear, because the learning comes through the ears, and the learning comes through the Word of God. So when we submerge ourselves in music that is not correct, that is pornographic in material, that is just filth, that's what happens to society. The values of the society start changing. So I am happy to hear that there's more artists coming out and more people that are becoming aware of all this problem that we have worldwide, and paying attention to what we hear and who we support in music as well.
Yeah, well, There's a recent article in Newsmax. I don't know if it was this month or the month prior, but a recent one where it's not just music. It's also in the other entertainment industries, such as film. There's a lot of films coming out that have a good, healthy theme to it, a good Christian conservative theme, a patriotic theme coming in it. And there's a hunger for that.
Correct.
I think people today are realizing that there's something missing in their life. And maybe that's a purpose, maybe that's a belief, and maybe it just might be God.
Well, something that I can say is 7 years ago, I was part of branding and marketing PureFlix in Florida. PureFlix is a company that does Christian movies at a very good level. And I had an amazing opportunity, and it was a great time of bringing more choices to families. Because one thing is that we do have companies out there with great material, but parents are not doing their part. When the kids get home, they just turn on the TV and they don't have good ways of preventing that the kids go anywhere. So they're not monitoring what their children and the young adults are watching. So the more that we come up with good material in all arts, in arts in general, the best is going to be for us as a society, because whatever our eyes see, our ears hear, and our mouth speaks, that has a resonance in our behavior and the way we feel and the way we act and we behave every single day. And we need to cleanse that up. America, sadly, has turned into a nation that we're not getting a good report on that sense. And we cannot turn like Europe turned, because this nation was founded on the best constitution ever written, the Bible. And if we have biblical values and our constitution and our way of life was based on the Bible, we should not be permitting all this filth coming through our ears, through our eyes, and even through our education system.
No, we can't. And I remember the very first time my parents ever had cable in the house. And remember, it used to be that box that had the wire attached to it that plugged into the TV, and you had maybe about 5 or 6 channels. And at that point, they were saying, "Oh, they're just going to plop them down in front of the cable TV and walk away, and the kids will be babysat by the TV." But back then, you had things like Bonanza, or you had shows that were all good, healthy shows, and cartoons were good, healthy shows. But today, there's so many offerings out there, whether it's on a Roku or Amazon Fire Stick or any other one of these services out there, Spectrum TV, Hulu, you name it. The kids have so much to choose from, but no one is monitoring what they're watching. But they don't need to sit in front of a TV. They got the smart device. They can pull it right up on the smart device. So now you got companies like Netflix that are putting things out there that a child should not be watching. The things that would be considered pornographic as you and I were growing up are being freely shown to these kids who are not mentally developed far enough to understand truly what they're watching. And they're being brainwashed saying, this is perfectly normal, when it's not perfectly normal behavior.
Right. Correct. I live in Orlando, and I live in the heart of Disney. I live 15 minutes, 20 minutes away from the park. And something that we did as a family several years ago, and we have 3 boys, and our boys are all involved in ministry. And we got to a point that we decided as a family that we needed to get rid of TV. And we are highly involved in our community, so we were paying for a service that we were really not using. And it was getting harder and harder every time to find good content, let's put it that way. And something that is happening in general, after the elections, my husband and I are highly involved in politics and obviously in church because we're pastors. But we decided to put cable back in, and not cable because cable doesn't exist anymore, to get this Netflix and other Hulu. And we pretty much got rid of it again because it took us one night, a whole hour to find a program, because we will put something and suddenly pornography will show up. What is pornography? People are not calling things by what it is really. If you're watching a normal movie and suddenly everybody is out there like Adam and Eve and performing acts that your children should not see, that is pornography.
Yeah.
And it took us an hour. And after that, we said, forget it. So we just kind of let it go. And we ended up just eliminating it because as we searched, the more we searched, the more we found. And that's not what is correct. So we need to support good musicians like the one that you just had, and we need to support people that talk about values, that sing about values, that teach about values, because our nation is in dire need of going back to what we are and how we were established with God in the midst of things. And there is plenty of creative ways to bring the creative works of God into the platform and into the families. But it seems like even churchgoers are compromising their values, and we're parting away from what we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to do. And arts in general is very important. God is a creative God, and we should be very careful of the things that we're watching, the places that we go. And it's not that we're going to be apart from the world, because we need to be light and we need to be salt, but definitely what our eyes and our ears hear, our eyes see and our ears hear is very important.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very important. And the church you go to is also extremely important. Find out what the values are. My church itself at
Correct.
one point had a compact with the Episcopal Church, to protect properties. It was a charter, but we split because the Episcopal Church decided they were going to become far more liberal than we were, where we would adhere to the Bible. Marriage is between one man and woman is what our faith believes. That doesn't make me a racist. It doesn't make me a bigot. It doesn't mean that I can have someone who is a friend of mine that's gay or in a gay marriage. Hey, what you do behind your closed doors is your business. You know how I feel.
Yeah.
I still will have a Christian charity towards you. You are my neighbor. You are my friend. I will
Correct.
be here when you want to talk, and we will have conversations. But it doesn't mean that I have to follow your lifestyle and accept it into my own. No. But it's supposed to be tolerance. So the tolerance is on our behalf, but not on the other side's behalf. And that's not what true Christianity is about. It should be tolerance in both directions. And you understand what I'm saying. I mean, hey, but in my faith, don't force my faith to perform a ceremony that we do not believe in. Don't force us to adhere to beliefs that go directly against what we believe the Bible teaches us. It's perfectly fine for this school in Pennsylvania, in what is it, Hillsborough, they call the name of the town, to have a satanic club, but you can't have one for Christians or Jews. No, you can have a satanic club. You can't have prayer in school, but you can have a satanic club with the satanic cults and rites. No, you can't carry a Bible into school because you might be deemed extremist or a racist, or you're horrible, you're homophobic. No. If you can have a satanic club, then I can have a Bible and I can sit down at lunch and say a prayer before I eat. It's not a two-way street anymore. It's one way or the highway, according to them.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important that our leaders become more vocal every day. I just finished I'm the president of the Republican Federated Women here in Orlando, and we're celebrating this year our 99th year anniversary. And we had Linda Bell. She's the president of Right to Life Florida, and we just finished our monthly luncheon, and it was just so refreshing to have a group of patriots that were willing to come and learn about what is the new laws that are coming out, what is it that we're doing here in the free state of Florida with our governor. As a matter of fact, the law was, the first part of the law was signed in our church a year and a half ago. So we planted and we took dominion of the territory as it's established in Genesis 1:26-28, that we are the ones that are supposed to be subduing the territory where we live in. So it was so refreshing to have somebody that is a strong voice that was bringing education and new statistics and clarity on how to not be tolerant, because we are known to be a very tolerant group, Republicans, conservative in general. But then, as you were just explaining, it only comes from one side, because otherwise we'll get labeled with very ugly names. And it's not that way. We need to learn how to speak. It's not that we need to get into arguments with everybody, but we need to be vocal. And in order to be vocal, we need to know what is happening. What is the truth of the things? What are the laws really? What do the laws really say? Because we're competing with TikTok. We're competing with so many media venues and avenues that they are part of the globalist agenda. They're being funded by the same millionaires around the world just to confuse people and keep people trapped into their narrow mentality of believing what the media says. So programs like this one and just having those important conversations is very important.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. We're not having the conversation. You got one side that's shouting you down, and then you've got the other side that is afraid to be yelled at because now you're putting me up in the spotlight. I'm being singled out because I have certain core beliefs that I live by, and I teach my children, or I live by example. But now you're putting me in the spotlight, and now it's going to affect where I work. It'll affect when I go out to the grocery store. It'll affect every aspect because now I'm going to be dogged by you. I'm going to be outed by you, and I'm afraid. I'm afraid for my safety. I'm afraid for my family. I'm afraid for my neighborhood because now the left will use any method possible, whether it's peaceful or non-peaceful. And they have no qualms about resorting to violence for intimidation. And we're afraid to be intimidated. No. It's about time we got some steel in our backbone, we take a stance, and we march forward. And you mentioned that the Women's Federation that you belong to, it's their 99th anniversary. You were formed 3 years after the ratification of the 19th Amendment that gave the women to vote.
Yes, we were. We are the oldest club in Florida, as a matter of fact. I will be the president during the year 99 and 100.
Yes. So congratulations.
So I'm very excited by that. Thank you. I was sharing today as part of we were talking about empowering people in general because we do have the women's club, but men are allowed to come. We welcome them with open arms. And I was pretty much doing a call of action and being vocal and being those leaders that we are called to be. And one experience that I shared today was the fact that we had the local newspaper. It's called the Orlando, and we call it the Orlando Sentinel, because every time they interview a Republican, they always end up changing at least half of what we say. So when I did the original interview, it was I ran last year for Congress in my district, and it was all the candidates. So they did an interview for all of us together. Somehow they decided that they were going to endorse. I never seek their endorsement. I did not want their endorsement. And 4 times they asked me about life. And the 4th time that they paraphrased the same question, I went ahead and told them, don't keep asking me the same question because I will not change my answer. So they decided not only to endorse me out of an interview that I was not asking for endorsement, they decided that out of all the candidates that were running, I was the only female. I'm the only one that was a pastor. They printed that I had said that I was the only one willing to consider abortion if it was rape, incest, or the health of the mother was at risk. And I never said that. So I pretty much was targeted 2 weeks before Election Day. And it was one of the hardest things that I ever had to do because it was either I deny the endorsement and I reject the endorsement and I made a clarification because they targeted me and they totally said things that I did not say, or I let it go and just never talk about the endorsement because that's what they were provoking. So it is very hard when you're placed between the wall and the sword, because it's either they destroy you with things that you did not say, or you let it go because it was nobody pays attention to them. And I was blessed because they're known to be liars, and nobody ever found out about that endorsement.
Well, Adianis,
so it was one of the hardest decisions in my life because life is one of the main points that I'm always talking about.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we do have our other guest. He's a little late, so I'll slap his wrist a little bit. Mark Tapscott with the Epoch Times and also the founder of Hill Faith in Washington, D.C. Good afternoon, Mark, and welcome back. You had a little bit of a vacation on us here.
Well, my wrist is smarting, and it's good to be back, and I apologize for missing.
Oh, no, you had a project.
What can we talk about today?
Well, you were working on a project down in D.C. That the Epoch Times had you on, so we will forgive you. But where do you want to go? Because we've got Title 42 that just went defunct as of midnight this morning. We've got Hunter Biden heating up. We have the Trump decision, and he's appealing that decision. Meanwhile, he did a takedown on CNN. Where do you want to go, Mike? Mark. See, I even forgot your name. You haven't been here so long.
Well, I'll tell you, my attention this week has been focused very much on the House Oversight and Accountability Committee's investigation of the Biden family's finances. And the chairman of that committee, James Comer from Kentucky, had a major news conference on Wednesday.
Yep.
Where they released a 36-page typed single-spaced memo that is just jam-packed with facts and details, documents about the basically what to any reasonable person appears to be a very complicated, very complex, and very lucrative money laundering scheme that has benefited almost a dozen members of the Biden family.
Yeah.
And when you think about the implications of that, it's bigger than Watergate. It's bigger than Teapot Dome. It could very well be the biggest political scandal in American history.
Yeah, it started as he was vice president. It carried on well beyond that. He used his position to intimidate a prosecutor in the Ukraine. His brother, even his grandchildren benefited in some form or another monetarily. And it is so widespread, it is absolutely baffling how this man can hardly string two sentences together, was so cunning at his prime to have manipulated all of this. Or is he playing dumb now so that when we do prosecute him, he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm mentally deficient. You can't prosecute me anymore." Is that the game he's playing?
Yeah. Well, I think that's a very good question, and of course, the White House response to the Comer news conference and the memorandum was literally to say it's fact-free, it's absurd, there's nothing to it, it's not true. And it is a complicated case. I mean, it's very complicated. They have, the committee has found so far, and they talk like they expect to find more, 20 of these limited liability corporations that, to all intents and appearances, basically were simply created for the purpose of passing money from one account to the next in an attempt to hide the source and the recipient. And that's very familiar to any law enforcement investigator that's done, for example, tracing drug money laundering. It's the same way they do it. You just set up multiple number of deposit points and transfer points, and hope that nobody can connect all the dots. Well, Comer is connecting the dots, but it is complicated. But I think there are two quotes from Biden that I think really illustrate the problem that he has. You'll recall during the campaign and multiple times since he was sworn in as president, he has said he had no knowledge of Hunter Biden's business activities. But just recently, he said, actually, I was in the debate with Trump, the last debate with Trump in 2020. He said that his son did not make any money on China. Nobody made money on China except Trump. Well, those are two statements that cannot both be true at the same time. You can't say, I have no knowledge of my son's business, and then say, my son's business did not receive any money from China. Those two statements, that violates the law of non-contradiction. That which is A cannot be B. And at some point, they are going to have to, the president is going to have to explain, well, which is true? Did you really not know anything about his business? Or how did you know he didn't make any money off China? Which is true. And I think that's when the crisis point will come.
Yeah, that is very interesting. Now, you've got several articles that you've written up on the Epoch Times. One of them says bank records show Biden family received $10 million in payments from China and foreign interests, according to the House Oversight. Then you also have another one, which is an analysis where House investigators zero in on Biden deals with Chinese, Romanian players as White House decries baseless claims. These are two articles, but then there's also the one that the New York Post put up back in February. Because imagine at that point, it's like, oh, no, that's not my laptop. Yes, it is my laptop. No, it's not my laptop. And finally, they decided to claim it was the laptop, so that way they can prosecute the people that released the information, Giuliani, to the New York Post. So they said, well, if you released it, then you violated. But yet he abandoned the laptop. And the policy of the store owner, the repair shop, is that you don't claim it within X amount of time. We are going to then possess it, and we'll do whatever we want with it because now you've abandoned it. And it's so tangled. This thing is so tangled. I'd love to see a flow chart to see how we can actually start to untangle where everything went. Is there any sort of a flow chart started?
Oh, I'm sure and in fact, during the news conference on Wednesday, Comer had a couple of big charts up on the stage that looked like the beginning of a flow chart for that purpose. There is no question that there has been for some time a complicated series of bank accounts that have been used to move money from multiple sources, many of them overseas, to members of the Biden family. And you probably noticed last night on the various outlets, the mainstream media, were saying that this is nothing because, in effect, they were saying this doesn't amount to anything because Comer is not showing Joe Biden's bank account getting money. And that literally is true. That literally is true, at least thus far. But if it's going to 9 members of the Biden family, and he claims not to know about it, that's simply not credible. I think most people, when they hear that, their response is, that's BS.
Yeah.
It's just not credible.
Well, it's going to unwind, and it's going to unwind big time. And the only way it's going to happen is if we got enough conservatives out there or enough blue dog Democrats going to say, wait a minute, there's something here, and maybe Uncle Joe shouldn't be running for office again. Maybe we should find someone else to take his place, like Kennedy. We'll see what happens, Mark. It's unraveling, and maybe that's another reason why they didn't want Tucker Carlson over at Fox News if he got his teeth into this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Mark, we will be talking with you in another 2 weeks. God bless you, sir. And I'm sorry we didn't have more time with you, but I got my person from Heritage. She is so quietly and politely waiting to come in and join us.
Well, if she's from Heritage Foundation, you should listen very closely, because I'm sure what she's got to say is good.
Oh, absolutely, Mark.
And it's good to hear you again.
It is a pleasure to have you back on the show. And don't be a stranger again. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
All righty. Take care.
Mark Tapscott, theepochtimes.com. And we welcome back, Adianis. We've got Hannah Davis from Heritage Foundation. And she is a research assistant for Border Security and the Immigration Center. What a person to have on today. What do you say? Hannah, are you with us?
Thanks for having me.
Oh,
yeah, I'm here. Thanks for having me.
It is our pleasure. You have been writing about the border all along, and I kind of like cracked up when I reached out to you because you wrote last month about 3 things the left doesn't want you to say about the southern border. And boy, did they pull every last one of them out of the hat when they were trying to argue in defense of eliminating Title 42. They pulled every trick in the book on this one.
Yeah, they really have. And the left is starting to catch on to the shell game that Biden and Mayorkas have put together seemingly on their own. So it's about time.
Yeah, and is the public finally listening? Are they ready now to say, hey, listen, we definitely have a problem on the border? I don't think they really are.
I believe so.
Really?
I think just a little bit, not enough. Most certainly not the same as the people on the right side of the aisle, politically, or in the sense that it is the right side of the aisle. But I've seen a few leftist or mainstream media outlets actually talking about it and condemning him. So it's very interesting to see it flip. But at what cost? At what crime cost? At how many lives cost? At how many smuggled? How many people dying from fentanyl? Why did it take them so long to actually start to implement policies that were around during the Trump administration?
That's the one thing that I heard is that when Title 42 was starting to sunset yesterday, I heard a lot of commentators saying they're not talking to the families that lost children or loved ones to the fentanyl epidemic or to the violent crime. As a matter of fact, up on the Heritage Foundation at heritage.org, there's a data visualization chart. If they click on there under immigration, that they can take a look at all the crimes and the spikes in crimes comparing 2016 all the way up until today. And we are in many areas, at 2016 levels or surpassing 2016 levels in crimes. It's mind-boggling that we have allowed our nation to devolve into such a criminal element, all because of illegal immigration and unsecured borders.
Right. Yeah, I'm familiar with that. I made that graph with the help of our graphics team. So it's quite shocking, and I'm happy people are actually clicking on that and looking at that, because sometimes that's what people need is a visualization. But yeah, 64% of federal arrests in 2018 alone were committed. Crimes from federal arrests were committed by non-citizens. With a higher population comes a higher crime rate naturally. And then people who cross into the nation illegally have already committed a federal crime in and of itself. So there's no basis or grounds to say that they won't continue to commit crimes. And these tent cities that we see are becoming sanctuary cities almost. And it's just riddling the school system. It's ruining the roads. It's a horrible situation.
Yeah, now, just so that people get an idea of what we're talking about, if they go to heritage.org and they can click on the menu and put down to under immigration, it'll ask you what topic do you want to do, and just click on immigration, and this chart will pop up under data visualization. I can't even say that. Visualization. And for example, in 2016, under President Obama, there were a total of only 8 homicides caused by illegal immigration. In 2020, by the time Trump left office in 2020, there were a total of 3. He averaged 3, 3, 2, 3. That's about all you had. So you had nearly 1/3 of all homicide murders. 3. You look at 2021 and 2022, it's 60 and above. And as we stand this year alone, we're going to surpass that. We're easily on the road to surpass that.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
it's a shame. These people they're encounters, and so they're people who have been encountered by Border Patrol or CBP-1 that have already been convicted of said felonies. So we know for a fact that they're criminals. And the way things are right now, we're still letting them in if they get to claim asylum.
Yeah, they're just saying, all right, now, what are you doing about families? Families are coming across. Yes, they are. Now, what about the crimes that are family crimes? Assault, battery, domestic violence. In 2016, there was over 1,000. When Trump left over, there was a mere 208, nearly 1/5 of what was happening. And imagine had he done another 4 years, maybe he may have 5. But in the first year of a Biden administration, he surpassed Obama. And again, he's well on the way to more than almost doubling if this trend keeps on going over the next couple of months. So yeah, we're taking care of families as we watch the families come across and domestic violence against innocent children and victims of that domestic violence by illegal aliens. Didn't we just recently have an illegal alien commit a mass murder in Texas just this past week?
He did, yeah. Just late last month, late April. He was deported 4 times in the last 14 years, and he gunned down 5 other people, one of them as young as 8 years old. And it was all execution style from the neck up. He was drunk, and he was upset that his neighbor told him to stop shooting his assault rifle in his front yard, which I think is a reasonable request. I wouldn't like it if my neighbor was doing that, and so he went in there and he gunned the whole family down. And what's the most striking thing, I think, about that whole story is the fact that he was deported 4 times in the last 14 years. I can't say it enough.
Oh, yeah. And you have, with the illegal drug possession, the fentanyl coming in. And again, under Obama, it was about 1,800. Under Biden, well above 2,000. Now, this is just the people trafficking the drugs into the United States. So you've got close to over 2,200 in just 2022. 2,200 individuals trafficking in fentanyl and other illegal drugs. How many deaths are actually tied to those drugs? One person can easily kill hundreds in our United States. And we have the highest death rate from fentanyl that we have ever seen before. How many from these over 2,200 people are the causes of those deaths?
And that's the thing. It's really hard to track those numbers because it's the unknown. Because a lot of gotaways are the ones who bring in the fentanyl, any drugs, regardless of what mainstream media wants to tell you. The majority of it does not come through a port of entry. It comes through between a port of entry by a cartel member. But I've seen reports that state that, there's enough fentanyl in the nation to kill everyone 5 times over. And I believe it.
Yeah, because you talk about on this chart that it's a beautiful chart. It's really easy to work it your way through. And the numbers are staggering because you talk about the drug trafficking, you talk about weapons possession and trafficking, the illegal reentries. You go down the whole list. And the one thing we aren't able to track is the human trafficking, which you have, I'm assuming, put underneath all other. And those numbers are startling. Mm-hmm. Absolutely startling.
Yeah, the human trafficking, human smuggling, the cartels run globally like $150 billion a year industry. So there's a lot of money in it, and the only thing to curb the cartels would have sound interior enforcement at the border and deterrence measures, and we have neither right now. But luckily, the House did pass H.R. 2 yesterday, narrowly, and we'll see how it survives in the Senate. And if it ever lands up on Biden's desk, hopefully he won't veto it. But that was a big success. And if that can keep going through, that'll begin to curb these human trafficking numbers, these fentanyl smuggling numbers. Those will likely go down if HR 2 ever sees the light of day past the House.
Yeah, and I was looking at some other statistics where these illegals are coming over, they're being processed by ICE. I really feel really bad for the agents down there because they are handcuffed. They are not allowed to actually do enforcement. They're there just to process the individuals. You give them a little tagger or a beeper or whatever the heck it is that they give them nowadays. But you also, I believe I saw on there a chart where, I know what it was. It was the memorandum that had the charts on it about the number of people that have these trackers. Well, they show up in one place, but that's not where the individual is. They just dump them. And then they disappear into the fabric of the nation, never to be seen or heard again unless they run across law enforcement.
That's exactly correct. Yes, CBP has become basically a glorified border TSA. They take photos of the migrants and they put them in the CBP One app, and then they give them phones, and then they are released. And they're supposed to come back for hearings that are, I've seen dates as early as next year, but as late as 2027. And they go into every district of the U.S. and never to be seen again, likely. And that's what the Biden administration right now, what you just explained, is what he calls a lawful pathway. But just because he's created a lawful pathway that circumnavigates actual legal pathways doesn't make the illegal alien legal. Yeah. So you're right. Every congressional district is now a border state.
My friend, oh, good Lord. I can see his face. I've known him for about 30 years. I just forgot his name. But he was an ICE agent. As a matter of fact, he personally escorted someone across the border 3 times, and the guy came back on the 3rd try and murdered a fellow police officer. Oh, good Lord. He's going to kill me. He's going to kill me because just for some reason, his name just went right out the window on me. And when you know someone for more than 30 years and you can't remember the name, something's wrong. My gray hair is getting to me right now. But this has been going on for a long time. It's not something new, but we've never seen it on the scale that it is on now. We saw the surge under the Obama administration. We saw the curb under Trump. And now this is far worse than we have ever seen in any point of our history.
You're right. And that's because it's purposeful. It's calculated. I'd venture no other administration purposely did this to the extent the same for illegal aliens as the Biden administration has, as the border czar has, as Secretary Mayorkas has. And it's all a political scheme. And if you ask me, it's because they're trying to sway votes. Eventually, more and more states will start giving driver's license and the right to vote to illegal aliens in local elections, and then it becomes federalized, and then eventually it's just going to be amnesty, and they think that it's going to sway votes, and that's it's calculated, and that's why it's as bad as it is now. And it took the mainstream media minorly bashing the current administration for them to kind of say, let me step back. Enough people have died from fentanyl ODs. Enough people are getting raped by migrants. Maybe we should step back and change something.
Absolutely. And the person I forgot, and he's going to kill me, and he'll probably call me later on tonight and talk to me about 45 minutes on the phone, Mike Cutler. That's who I was trying to remember. God, how could I forget it? I used to see him almost every day in the precinct because he was stationed upstairs while I was downstairs. But we have right now, as you mentioned, they're coming in, they're getting driver's license, which means the next step is voting. And there's several different jurisdictions that are saying, well, why can't a resident, doesn't mean you're a legal resident, but a resident like New York City can get to vote in local elections. They've been trying to pass that along the way. I think, isn't it Baltimore that has it also? But how do you prevent them from going into the booth on election day, and how do you prevent them from voting in any other race other than a local race? You can't. There's no way to do that.
Well, states can revise their definition of a state resident. And if they ensure that state residents are clearly defined as a legal citizen and a lawful alien, that'll help to prevent illegal aliens from obtaining state benefits, voter registration, identification, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of things states can do on the statewide and even local level to kind of nip it in the bud.
But
it's an uphill battle, but there are things to do. But and something, I mean, like DC or New York City, of course, they're going to do everything in their power to make it easy for illegal aliens to vote in their elections. But eventually they'll realize that being a sanctuary city and harboring illegal aliens is not going to benefit their people. Their communities are riddled with crime, drugs. They'll catch on eventually. It might be a while, but I think they'll catch on.
Well, I saw an interview on Newsmax, and I kind of started to crack up. They were talking about New York City complaining about receiving all these illegal immigrants coming across the border, but they declared themselves a sanctuary city. So they were interviewing this one gentleman. He goes, well, I'm homeless, and they're giving hotel rooms to the illegal aliens, but here I am, I'm homeless, and I'm a resident, but they're not helping me. Oh, by the way, I just got out of prison. And I'm going, what? That's beautiful. That is the perfect
There's a lot of factors going on.
Yeah, I just got out of prison. I got no place to go, but you're giving my room to an illegal alien. So, well, I have to be on the streets. So what am I going to do? I'm going to commit another crime to go back to jail. Beautiful. That's the answer, right?
I guess he wants 3 hots and a cot, but that's one way to get it. I've seen the same thing happen here in D.C. I live around this area, and I know the homeless population are very mad because the beds are filled with migrants. We prioritize illegal aliens before we prioritize our own veteran homeless people. And it doesn't matter if someone, if he like that man you mentioned, how he just got out of prison. I mean, he's still an American citizen, so he should be prioritized over an illegal alien. And these states have started to reap what they've sown.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we have them complaining, oh, no. Kamala Harris just had 1,700 of them just disembark in front of her house. Just thank you, Governor Abbott. But that's the one thing that states can do if they are a red state, get their governors and law enforcement to enforce the laws on their state books. And maybe the illegal aliens will decide not to take up residence in those red states and go to the blue states that have to deal with the problem. And maybe something will be done.
Absolutely. I think that's the best way. The states have a lot more power than they like to use sometimes. And if you prohibit an illegal alien from receiving a driver's license and then go further than that and prohibit a illegal alien from getting a business or a commercial or even a professional license, they'll have no incentive to reside in your state. They'll have none at all if you don't give them what are they called, benefits, state benefits. They're not going to be there. So that's the best way. If states are really seeing a major issue, whether it be a blue state or a red state, they need to fix the issue without over politicizing the issue. Also, a lot of blue states recognize, New York City is beginning to recognize that they have an issue, but they can't really side with how I think or how you think because it's such a hypersensitive topic. It's so politicized that people would rather jeopardize their own citizens and their own communities rather than just enforce laws that make sense.
There was an interview of a gentleman in Chicago saying he's left Chicago because there was a shootout out his back window in the park the kids hang out, and there was a drug deal going out the front door. And the good people are fleeing, and all you're going to have left in these sanctuary cities are not the good people or the people who cannot afford or have nowhere else to go, and they're stuck. There will be victims from birth to death. And the death will probably end up a lot sooner than they expect unless we get our nation to start turning around. And one of the things we have to do is decouple federal funding from the NGOs. If you decouple the federal funding that goes with the body, the NGOs will not have incentives to process those bodies, will they?
No, not at all. The NGOs vicious web. It's cyclic. They receive their funding from the government, and they do what the government knows that they shouldn't be doing, so they pawn it off to them. They're essentially glorified traffickers, the biggest traffickers of illegal aliens into the nation that you'll ever find. And the money the amount of money they get that's paid for by you and me, tax-paying citizens, is egregious. It's millions and millions. It's bukus of dollars. And it's going straight towards the facilitation of mass illegal immigration into our nation.
It is. It is massive amounts. And you're not talking about a couple of $1,000s per body. You're talking about tens of thousands of dollars per body. And then once that body comes into the system here, they get Section 8 housing, food stamps, Medicaid, educational assistance going into the school systems, you name it. They get the Obama phone. Oh, wait a minute, that's right. They got the phone at the border. But that's the phone that tracks them. So they turn that phone in and get an Obama phone that we are paying on our bill. If anyone decides to look at their TV bill, their phone bill, their internet bill, there's a couple of cents they take out every single one of your bills to pay for those phones, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and those phones are newer than the one I have in my pocket.
Yeah.
Nice phone.
Yeah. And meanwhile, we're struggling with the phone bill. It's like about maybe, $70, $80 per phone. And they got a phone that they can use. It's probably costs the taxpayers double that. Because, contractors are going to double bill the government, aren't they? So, yeah, it's a never-ending cycle.
Of course.
Oh, man.
You're exactly right.
So we have now... the House passed that bill. We don't expect it to go through the Senate because they're already drawing lines. But I read the article that it said that there were some Republicans that, was it down straight party lines, or did some Republicans walk ship?
Two Republicans voted no. Massey from West Virginia and Durante, I think is how you pronounce his name, from California. So, and I think it was 211 Democrats voted no, but just enough narrowly made it so it was passed through the House. But the 211 Democrats is obviously, that's understood to happen. But the Republicans saying no, it's a shame.
But we don't have enough of the votes to overturn a veto. And that worries me because that's what we need, and it's a pipe dream. So what the Republicans do, it looks basically like it's symbolic rather than something actual. Do you think that's going to get any sort of legs at all?
There's going to have to be so much pushing. We're going to have to find senators with big names that are willing to back up this bill and make it part of their main agenda. Every time they go on to Fox, every time they go on Newsmax, every time they attend a rally, every time they shake a constituent's hand, they need to mention the bill. And right now, that's going to be a hard thing to try and get some people behind because, like I said earlier, it's such a politicized issue. It's so sensitive. It's so quick to be called xenophobic or racist. It could be a career killer, but it could also be a career winner if the right people back this and it gets through.
Now, I'm pulling things out of the back of my head because a number of years ago, there was a movement that employers were to run the Social Security number through a database, a federal database, to determine whether or not the person you're hiring is a legal resident or an American citizen, or if that Social Security number actually matched the individual who was presenting it, to prevent employment of illegal aliens. But that program has seemed to just kind of like melted into the sidelines. We don't have that anymore, do we?
Are you referencing E-Verify or something similar?
I was trying to remember what it was called, E-Verify.
E-Verify is not federal law, but different states require different levels of usage. Like just a couple of days ago, Florida required that under penalty of law, if you've got more than 25 employees at your shop or whatever your place of business, I guess you should say, if you don't verify them through E-Verify, you could lose your business license. And there's a few other states that do such things, but I think it should just be across the board, state by state. Everybody should say, regardless of how many employees you have, you should require E-Verify. Otherwise, you could lose your business license. You'll be fined heavily. And so it'll incentivize these people to actually hire legal people, legal lawful residents, whether they be citizens of the U.S. or people who obtained their visas in a legal way. So E-Verify is used, but each state varies if they use it at all. But I agree it should be used.
It should be. And
HR 2 actually mentions.
It does mention E-Verify in what the House just passed. I like that.
Yes, it does. Yes.
Good. Because I remember when it first came out, my husband and I had a printing business at that time, and we were thinking about expanding it, getting into other avenues of the printing business. And just as a lark, ran his Social Security number through the E-Verify system just to see how it worked. It's very easy to use. A lot of people say, well, it's too complicated, it's too time-consuming. It's very simple. It takes only a matter of a few moments to run someone and verify that it is who they claim they are and that this is a legal hire. And I would like to see something like that nationwide, state by state. Let each state pass it and determine what the penalties are, but make it a state referendum, but supported by a federal legislation. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and you're right. It's a very, very simple tool to use. It's a caveman could do it. It's very easy.
You mean Joe Biden can do it? Oh yeah,
yeah. I bet Sleepy. Yeah, Sleepy Joe could probably figure it out if he remembers his Social Security number.
That's right. Well, Hannah, it's always a pleasure to have you, and thank you for answering my call last minute. You know, ever since Tom left to go on to his new position, I miss having you guys on. So, you know, put a buzz in someone's ear and say, hey, listen, that crazy lady over at Southern Sense, just send her someone every Friday. Send me. We love to talk to you.
I'll do it. It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'll be sure to put a buzz in someone's ear.
All right, and you can be found at heritage.org. You're also up on the Daily Signal. So all you have to do is at the little search bar, key in your name, Hannah Davis, pull up the articles that you're writing and all the research that you have done and the hard work that you and your people are doing on immigration and all other issues. God bless you, and God bless Heritage.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right. Well, that's all we got for our show today. It has been a lot of fun. We had Stephanie Lee, a.k.a. Redneck Lady, with her music. Judge Jeanine Pirro. For those that missed it on Blog Talk Radio, I will splice in the audio for that. For some reason, they did not allow the audio to go over on Judge Jeanine. I will splice that in for you on that one tonight. Don Blangero, also known as Sun King Rising, his fantastic music, both Christian and country and conservative. Mark Tapscott of the Epoch Times, love him. I've known him for years. And again, Heritage Foundation, Hannah Davis. Check out heritage.org. We will be back next week. I'm already starting to line up people now. And Curtis C.S. Bennett will be back with us next week, so we'll have a lot more fun. And until then, I say good night and God bless as I leave you with a song from my friend Gary Pecorella, Save America, and have a happy, blessed, and safe Mother's Day. Until then, we'll see you then.
I'm praying for this land I love, America, America, the home of the free. But there are people making plans to change America. They've no respect for her or what matters most to me. That's why I stand for the flag and I kneel at the cross. For the friends I have loved and lost, and I still believe God we trust, and the freedom our forefathers granted us. I hope it's not too late to save America. Do you hear our battle cry? America. We've got to rescue her. You know it's up to me and you to see the truth behind their lies. Don't change America. God bless America and the red, white, and blue. That's why I stand for the flag and I kneel at the cross. For the friends I have loved
90 seconds.
And I still believe in God we trust. And the freedom our forefathers granted us. I hope it's not too late to save America.
60 seconds.
That's why we stand for the flag and we kneel at the cross. No, for the friends we have loved and lost, and we still believe in God we trust. In the freedom our forefathers granted us. We know it's not too late to save America.
10 seconds.
Save America. Let's save America. Together we can save America.